Okay. Cat's there. I'm talking. Yay. All right. Fantastic. All right. So everybody seems to have gotten here today. If all is the way it's supposed to be and nothing weird happens with the world, next Monday I'll be seeing you guys in class in person at the West Loop campus. So just keep that in mind that today and Wednesday will be, unless other things change, the last 2 days I'll see you guys online. We will be switching to in-class, in-person mode next week, next Monday. And always to check to see if you go back to, I believe it's right up here, the COVID-19 update. And this is the last update, which is the last thing that we've heard from them. So unless they change it between now and then, we will be meeting in person. All right, so from there, let's see. Today what I'd like to do is I'd like to continue on with Project 1, so we'll look at the elevator pitch, the verbal pitch. Then there's a couple of other videos that I want to go through. There's one in here called the 30 Things I Hate About Your Pitch. Oh, I didn't actually put that one in here. So I'll have to go, nope, there it is. 30 Things I Hate About Your Game Pitch. So we'll start with the elevator pitch, then we'll go into, I think this is a video. I don't really want, well, I guess we'll cover it just to look at the documentation that goes with it. This will sort of help you sort of put your pitch together, like things that you need to think about and the way you should say them, in what order that you should say them. And then we have I think there's Art of the Verbal Pitch, which is a PowerPoint document which I've created. And then we have another one here called Game Pitch. So we have two PowerPoints that we'll go over. Then we'll watch the elevator pitch videos. These two are kind of cheesy, but they're good. It's good information, but they're delivered a little cheesy. This one's great information. We'll watch that one afterwards, and then we'll watch and finish with that. And if we have any time between now and 3 o'clock, then what we'll do is we'll break up into our groups online. And what I mean by that is I'll go, okay, group 1, tell me what's going on with your project and let me explain where you are in the process, who's been assigned what, what companies are you guys looking into. Maybe not tell me what companies, because I don't want to give your sources away to other students or other groups, but definitely say, yes, we do have two, everybody has at least two, and we'll go over sort of what you should be, where you should be in your meeting and in the process for the project. We might not be able to get to all groups. It depends on how quickly we get through the information, but at least if we get one group and we use them as an example, then when you guys break up into your groups later between now and next Monday, you'll know what to do in your meeting. All right, so let's start off with, game proposal we've already done. Art of the Verbal Pitch. So what do we do? Zoom out, make this bigger. There we go. All right, so to remember that this is a sales pitch, you're going in there to ask or persuade the other person to meet some kind of terms that you have, that you want that are favorable for you to be able to complete what it is, your project, and in this case it's a game, right? But to remember that this is a sales pitch. So what is a sales pitch? A sales pitch is a selling technique, a sales presentation, or sales pitch. Selling technique, a sales presentation, or sales pitch is a line of talk that attempts to persuade someone or something with a planned sales presentation strategy of a product or service designed to initiate and close a sale of a product or service, right? So that's a very legalese, but basically it's something that you've worked on, a presentation, whether it be verbal or have imagery or something that when you present that information to somebody that has money, they go, I see the brilliance, or I see why I need this product or service. Here's money, provide me that product or service. A sales pitch is essentially designed to be either an introduction of a product or service to an audience who knows nothing about it, or a descriptive explanation of a product or service that is an audience that already has some expressed interest in it. So there's two kind of things. There's what we call a cold pitch, which is, hey, I'm doing this and I'm providing this kind of service, and you didn't even ask for it, but here it is. Or you've got what we call a captive audience, people that are interested in your product and service because they've come to you and initiated contact and said, we would like to purchase something from you, and we really like your products, or we really need this. For example, I'll give you two examples of this. There was we have Heavy Trash Day about 2 months ago, and one of my neighbors throws out a really good basketball goal, like with the plastic bottom to put water in it. Everything was working fine. Their kids had moved out. They didn't need the basketball. It was just sitting there rusting, and they wanted to get rid of it. So I go and I pick it up, and on the way back, there's a guy on one of these like little Segway things, like a small little Segway, like a little, just enough to be able to stand on. And it's cool. It's got a little water holder thing on it. And he walks up to me, and he just gives me this weird, hey, if I'll play you for the basketball goal, and if I win, I get the goal, and if I lose, I'll do your backyard for you, free of charge. He was selling pesticide stuff, right? But he was on a little Segway. And when I say yuppie, like I mean like young urban professional type of person, right? Like very much in there. And I was like, whoa, too strong, first of all. Second of all, I don't even have a basketball right now because we just picked this up. And that was and then I sat down, and he kept trying. He just kept trying. He was like, well, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, dude, listen, I've been in sales for, 30 years. I understand what you're trying to do right now. Understand I don't want pest services. And then he was like, do you have anybody else? Dude, like, he was trying really, really hard. And so he was there trying to give me a presentation that I didn't want. And in those kind of situations, you have to understand that people are going to, that your rate of rejection is going to be really high, because I didn't want to be bothered right now. You know what I mean? But here comes a sales pitch on my own property in my driveway. And then there's another example, like when I worked at a jewelry store. So I'm sitting there, I've created a location, a place to do business, and people walk in the door and they say, my wife is having a birthday, or my husband's anniversary, blah, 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 and I need X. And then you show them what you have. And in that situation, the dynamics are a little bit different, and my rate of success is probably going to be a lot higher. So, but I would still have a presentation. I would go around the store. I would look at the pieces that I liked. I would examine those pieces, and then I would see what I liked about them. Not that I was super in, I actually don't wear anything except a small necklace, but that's it. But I would do that to my inventory, so then that way if somebody came in and they were looking for something, I could go, oh, I have just the perfect thing, and I'd take them over to a corner, and then they would feel more connected just because I had a presentation, it was ready to go. I quote unquote knew the perfect thing that they needed, and then I would have like a small story that I would have for each one of the pieces that I liked, right? And then if it was October, like this coming up, then I would have Opal. I would read up on Opal. I would have my little sales pitch on what Opal was and how that was the birthstone for the month or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so we'd be ready to go with the Opal. But there you go, right? So sometimes people want it, sometimes people don't. Sales professionals prepare and give a sales pitch. Which can be either a formal or informal, and might be delivered in a number of ways. So back to my jewelry store example, if somebody came in and they were looking for a diamond for an engagement ring, well, there was a whole list of questions that I had for them, and then I would just tirade straight into basically like a PowerPoint present. We would have like this little point of purchase display thing that I could like point to, and I could go, these are what diamonds are. This is the color clarity, cut, and quality. I don't know. I forget what the other C is. Cut, clarity, carrot weight, there's the other one. So you'd have like the 4 C's, right? And I just go into the explanation. Then I would go and pick up a couple of stones, give them the example, show them what a poor stone would look like, what a really high stone looks like. They can see the difference now because they've been educated. They're not just looking at a rock. They have no idea what it is. And so I would have a formal presentation for them, right? If somebody came in and said, oh, I don't know what I'm looking for. Oh, well, let me show you around. And then that would be a little bit more informal until I figured out what they were looking for. And then I'd go into a slightly more formal sales pitch for whatever the individual item was. All right, so for gaming, obviously this is the sales pitch that you're going to give to the your publisher in the meeting that you get with them. Sometimes you have 10 minutes, sometimes you have 20 minutes, sometimes you have 30 minutes. Depends on how in-depth it gets and what their time schedule is like. So that gives you, most of the time you're not going to have an hour-long initial meeting. You're going to have, that'll be later once you guys have worked out some stuff. The common mistake that new salespeople often make is they try to prove how smart they are or how their company is the best and launch straight into their sales pitch without asking any questions. So that's and I highlight questions. This is called qualifying. So if you've ever been in sales, you qualify the people that are in front of you to figure out what they are, what they're looking for. If a person walks in and I start showing them engagement rings and they came in for a watch because for a graduation for a student or for a kid or something, then I'm totally wasting my time and their time, and I haven't qualified my person well enough. This qualification for us is going to be doing research on the company that you're going to go do the interview with, right? So if you know that you're going into X, Y, and Z development company or publisher company and you're going to give them a presentation, well, then maybe you should do your homework on how old that company is. Sort of what we're doing with the competitive analysis, right? Where you're going in and you're finding questions to ask about that company. Because I can tell you that if somebody came into me and they knew some things about, like, I would have to tailor myself a little bit different. So if somebody came in and they knew they were like a watch aficionado and they knew everything about watches, well, then me and that person would have a very different conversation than somebody that would come in that's just looking for a nice watch, right? Because they already have a lot of information on their side, which then makes them seem more intelligent. And if I have like a list of different customers that I have all day and I have somebody like that, then generally I remember that. They stick out more. They're like, wow, they really knew a lot about what was going on with this. And so if you can do that to your who you're going to be doing the interview with, that's fantastic, because you can ask intelligent questions, or you can let them know, hey, I know who you are, I want to work here, and then that desire comes through if you're able to show that you know enough about them, right? So don't just launch straight into your pitch. Ask qualifying questions. Now, like I said, in our example, you're not going to ask me questions. You should ask those questions to the internet or to Google prior to the setup of the meeting. In my situation, I don't have a website. I'm a fictional company, so there's nothing to look up. I'm giving you what I want from giving you all this information, right? So cookie cutter pitches are the death of salespeople. If you come across and it seems too rehearsed and it seems like you don't care about the person that you're talking to, it seems more robotic, and that if any, like you could replace the customer with anything and you would give them exactly the same pitch and it would sound exactly the same. That's what cookie cutter means. So try to avoid sounding that way. Try to sound natural. Try to speak to people like they're like when you watch a TED Talk, right? If you guys have ever seen a TED Talk, I think most of us have. They get on stage and they just talk to the audience like normal people, right? So that feeling of being genuine definitely comes across in a sales pitch. So don't go up there and sound like one of those, I can't even do it, like circus carnival people, right? Step right up, blah blah blah, and they go just into their little pitch, and they don't care that anybody's listening or not listening. Sometimes they don't even have to make eye contact, right? They're just going straight through it, as opposed to feeling a little bit more personal about it, by making eye contact, by feeling natural when you talk. Not like it's rehearsed. So you rehearse to know what you're going to say, but you don't rehearse to make it sound exactly the same way each time. Anybody who's a victim of a pitch has their defense mechanisms up at full steam whenever they're
Good
being.
afternoon, sir.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
Fantastic. Okay, give us. We're actually in the middle of a presentation about pitches, right? Because we're going to be talking about the verbal pitch, the elevator pitch. So I'm sort of setting you up. I think we're about 2 slides into the presentation, so just hang in, and we'll. If you have anything, we are recording to the YouTube page. Okay. So basically what I'm saying with the third point there is that if you walk up to people, their natural defenses are going to be up. They're wanting to shut you down is going to be immediate. So a lot of this will happen in the elevator pitch. You might you might find somebody at a Comic-Con or something like that, and you know who that person is because you've done your research, and you walk up to them, and maybe they've been hit 20 times in a day or 30 times that day about different projects and this and that, and immediately they're just going to be 100% nope, not going to listen to you, right? Just yeah, you're another one of these people that keeps looking at trying to create some kind of business deal with me. So in that kind of a situation, understand that, oh, okay, cool, these people are busy, they're doing something else. I'm hitting them at a moment where they may not be ready for a pitch, and at that point you have to have like a backup plan, because you're going to get shut down, and if you try to continue, then you're just going to make them mad, right? So you don't want to upset them before you even have a relationship with them, right? So the easiest thing to do in a situation like this would be to give them a business card and say, we have a great website, we'd love to work with you. If you have a moment in your busy day, could you please take a look? We're doing some amazing things and we'd love to work with you. Period. Done. You've given them a card. That card has your information on it. That information leads them to a website. That website has more information about you, and you don't have to hit them at that moment with all this rehearsed pitch, right? So, let's see. So you'll be So. Let's see. To give you an example of something like that. Let me see. Where was I? So I was on I was on my last trip to Japan, and I was taking a group of friends with me, a buddy of mine and his wife, and the plane had been overbooked. So so they were trying to figure out, because there was definitely way more people, and they were trying to figure out who they could weed out. Hey, if you would rather take a later flight, blah blah blah. Let us know and we'll give you a coupon. You can come back and do this, and we'll upgrade you to a better flight or whatever, right? And so I walked up, and there was like a rush. There was a mad rush up to the counter. So I walked up to the counter, and I just stood there. I didn't say anything. I wasn't trying to be, And then the lady finally got to me, and she's like, "Can I help you?" And I was like, "Yes, I really need to get on that flight because my friends have already loaded. They're already on, and I'm quote unquote their interpreter, right? I'm the person. I'm their liaison. I'm the person who invited them on a trip. I can't not be on the plane. So if you could please make sure that I get on that plane, that'd be great." And then I walked away from the counter. She got my name, blah blah blah. Boarding is almost finished. I think I'm going to have to call my friend and tell them, on the phone, "Hey, I didn't get on the plane. I guess you guys are going to have to find the hotel on your own. Good luck. I'll meet you guys later." And then I hear my name, and they say, "Please approach the counter, Martin Hansen." And I walked up there, and the lady had upgraded me to first class because I wasn't being a total douche, right? I had been nice. I walked up to her. I explained to her my situation, why I feel like I should be on that plane, and walked away. And so this is sort of that same situation where I didn't bum rush them. I just calmly said what I wanted to say, and then left it. And because of that, I think that's why that lady gave me an upgrade. She was like, "Oh, yeah, between this guy who's been yelling at me for 15 minutes and the dude who's just standing over there patiently, who's explained to me in one sentence what he needs, and that I feel more connected to that person than I do this person, right?" So don't be overbearing. Don't push yourself on top of people. Just give them the business card. Say, "We'd like to work with you," and walk away. If they're busy and they can't deal with you at that moment. A good sales pitch is more about understanding than pouncing, right? So in that situation, I would have assessed the situation, seen that they're super busy, had my business card ready, said, and then give them that and say, maybe I give them a very quick 2 seconds of, "This is what we're doing. I'm this kind of a company. Yeah, I know that you guys are working with these kind of companies, and we'd like to work with you. Here's my business card." Done. So then they go, "Wow, this person knew that I was working with these kind of companies, knew that there was possibility with my company for these kind of companies or these kind of businesses, and they gave me a card and they left me alone." So didn't pounce, but got the understanding through. And the understanding is you assess the situation and you figure out what's the best course of action at that situation. Effective sales pitches require upfront work, so that you're familiar enough with your product's business that you can personalize your presentation instead of trying to stick it to a canned script, right? So what that means is you have your script, so then that way you have like an outline of the points that you want to talk about. Those points might be hit differently depending on which way the meeting goes. So maybe you end up talking to somebody, that person ends up, maybe the person who's doing your evaluation or is the liaison for the publisher there during the meeting is a programmer or they're an artist. And so you start talking about program, and that hits something inside of them. And instead of spending, the next 10 minutes of the thing talking about, or the next, you only had like 1 minute of stuff to talk about with the programming, but maybe you know enough about your project that you can extend that moment out a little bit, so then that way you can kind of capitalize on the fact that you found out that you're talking to somebody who does programming, and so you want to maybe go that direction a little bit more than to talk about the artwork that's in it that maybe it doesn't hit the same note with them, right? So your script is more of I love the Pirates of the Caribbean where they said it's more like guidelines, right? It's not rules, it's more like guidelines. So your script is going to be more like a guide and less of you have to say this, then you have to say that. And if you don't do it in that order, and don't get frustrated if they throw you out of order. That might be a good thing. Maybe they ask a question, you go to the end of your thing and you explain that, and then you come back. So 8 tips for doing a better sales pitch. Do your research. So a lot of that is the competitive analysis and our SWOT. Start your pitch with a question. So that's always a great thing. So haven't you ever wondered how life would be like if X, or wouldn't it be cool to play a game that did X, Y, and Z? So you're starting off with that. So basically you're creating a situation where instead of telling somebody something, you're trying to get them to use their imagination by posing a question. Because when you pose a question, that then hits the person as and then they maybe visualize or try to respond to that question, and then you've got them mentally engaged, right? So it's always great to start off with a question, or ask questions throughout, like your bullet points could be turned into questions, and then you can explain them, right? So then again, you're setting up that same type of a scenario. Paint a vision of the future. So use a lot of stories. You know what I mean? And don't waste time with stories. Be concise, get to the point. I do a lot of stories when I talk, like the story about the trip to Japan, or the story about when I worked at the jewelry store, because what it does is it takes your ideas and it puts them into a real world situation where the person that you're talking to can then see how your product or the thing that you're trying to sell them works or worked with somebody else. This is, I mean, when you go to products, they'll have a whole page for testimonials, right? People that have used their products that say that their products are great, because what this does is it reinforces the fact that they have a great product because these people have used it, and these people are happy with it. I mean, this is why movies have reviews, right? So many of so many tomatoes out of whatever, or so share your insights. So personal experience is fantastic. This is what insight is. If you're talking about games, it might be like I've played, been playing games for blah blah blah. I remember games from when they were this to when they were this, and what I really missed about those type of games is this, and this is what we're going to be, it's one of the features that we're going to be working on in our game that will bring back sort of that feeling of, and so you're bringing your insight of playing games and game history into the game conversation and making it part of your pitch, so that way again you're doing the same thing. You're trying to in this case it would be invoke a memory, right? So paint a vision of the future as you create this this new thing from the thing that you have or the product that you're selling, and sharing your insight is bringing your own personal experience in there, which is again another type of a story, and then engaging the customer that way. Know how to overcome common sales objections. So this is what the kid on the scooter from the pest control place couldn't understand. Like, he just didn't understand that I was done. I was letting him know, nope, I'm done. I don't want to. And he would just keep trying by keep talking. He kept trying to engage, and every time I just shut him down. So I felt bad for that kid. But realize that there are going to be some people that, regardless of what kind of a product you have, what kind of a presentation you have, everything seems to be working the right way, and then they shut you down anyways. They don't want to. They're going to say certain things. They're going to be no. And so in sales, we always say don't ask an open-ended question. Something that can be answered with a yes or a no is a bad question, because if they answer no, your presentation is over, right? So in your presentation, as you're creating questions or you're trying to engage your client or your potential client, in this case, the publisher, you don't want to ask questions that the answer could be no, or nah, or right? Because if you hit that, you're done. And then also, some people will say, I don't like this, or I don't like, like, if you can get them to maybe disagree with a point, then you might be able to very quickly pivot on that point and show them some other thing that might catch them. But there's a certain number of no's. Like, again, at the jewelry store, if I was showing somebody a piece and I thought it was a great piece for them, and they said no to it 3 times, it was done. That piece was back in the case, and I never showed it to them again, because they already rejected it 3 times. They said no 3 times. And so there's like a psychological effect. The first no might have been a reaction. The second no is affirming that reaction, and then the third no is saying, okay, I'm done thinking about it. My final answer is no, right? So if you get no 3 times on anything, you're done. Listen to understand, not just to reply. So when you're giving a presentation, sometimes people will talk back. They'll you're telling them a story, they'll tell you a story, right? And that's why storytelling is such a great tool in pitches, because what it does is it discloses information about the other person. So let's say I'm doing a sales pitch about a watch and graduation. I can be like, my dad just came into the store the other day and he bought this watch for my little brother. My little brother loves it. He's this kind of a person. He's very active, and so the fact that this watch is a very rugged watch and very beefy, sporty look, he can beat it up and blah blah blah. And then they'll turn around and they'll say, oh yeah, my nephew, or blah blah blah. Oh, you have a nephew. Well, maybe we can find something for him, or a niece. We can find something for her, and then they disclose more information. And so that's that engagement that you want to have with with the in this case the publisher when you're in the meeting. If you can engage with them, if they do start talking, that's not a bad thing. Don't think that they're trying to throw you off. Be like, oh, great, yay, they're telling me something about something that's important to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have spoken up, right? So listen to understand, listen to what they're saying, and not just to talk over them, not just to, not. And sometimes they'll say something without saying it, right? They'll give you a negative, which maybe will reinforce a positive somewhere else, right? Oh, you didn't like that feature? Well, guess what? This watch stops that feature, or that feature's not a problem in this watch, right? Outline options for the next step. This is very important. If I didn't get if I got the okay from somebody, oh yes, I want this, please wrap it up, fantastic, then at that point I would start telling them, okay, well, if we're done shopping, or is there something else I can show you, would probably be the question I'd say. Is there something else I can show you? If not, then I'll meet you over at the counter. I'll get somebody to get this gift wrapped, and all I'll need is your driver's license and a credit card. And so then they would, and so I would tell them what the next step is until the sale was done, once I got an okay for them. If I didn't get an okay, if they said, I'm not ready to pull the trigger on it, I think everything's great, I really like that one, I would see if there's anything that would be the matter between price and timing. When is the person's event? How soon are you going to need to have it by? And then the other thing is you realize we also do in-store financing if it's a money thing, because that's usually the two things. It's time or money when it comes to sales, at least at that level. For here, outlining steps might be, great, I'm really glad you guys are excited about my idea. We'll work on the tip that you gave me. And you sort of do like a recap of, like a small recap of what you did in the meeting. And then from there, you'll say, well, what we'd like to do is we'd like to have another meeting. We'd like to set up, what would you like us to bring to that meeting? What would we like you to bring to that meeting? And if everything's great, then we'll do this or we'll do that. And then you probably will have 3 or 4 meetings generally with people before you actually start working on a project with them. And then at that point, you might have contracts, lawyers, accounting, other things, and that's where some of the other meetings will go. But the original pitch, which is what we're doing in this case, the outcome would be, or the options for the next step would be asking for an additional meeting. Maybe there's something that you need prior to the next meeting that they can provide for you as a show of goodwill, or whatever. And then at that point, you tell them also all the things that you're going to need to complete the project. So you say something like, we'd really like another meeting to discuss the fact that we are going to, as presented in the presentation, we're going to do all these things, but we're deficient in this area, this area, this area, so we would like to have another meeting to figure out how we're going to hire, let's say, another programmer or somebody that knows how to work specifically with networking and gaming, who knows more information about us, or we're going to hire this company or we're going to use these people's web services. They cost about this much. And in this kind of meeting, we probably wouldn't get into specific money, but we would like to talk about, how we're going to incorporate that. And then also keep it short. Don't expand too much on any one idea. Remember that you're sort of going through bullet points, and you're sort of sitting there and you're going through an outline. So, hi, my name is, this is the company that I represent. These are the people that are on my team. This is what our game is. And it'd probably be that. It'd probably be, this is what our game is. This is what your character is going to be doing. These are the key features that are going to make the thing awesome. And then probably explain, these are the people on my team, and then everybody would walk up, say, yes, I'm really excited for working on this project. When Martin first approached me about working on this, the idea I thought was really interesting. I've never seen another game like this, and this is how I'm going to be working in the project. I will be creating the monsters for Martin's horror game, and in the vision of myself and what me and him have come up with, right? And so you don't want to get too long-winded about anything. You just sort of talk normally, approach it like a casual meeting, and then but in that be explaining and then trying to engage uh, with the person as a person. Because if you can get them as a person and you can see their personality and they like you, then that's a good thing, because you don't want to work with somebody you don't like, right? So if you come across as somebody that's uh, not easy to work with, or seems to have anger issues, or very emo in their responses, oh yeah man, whatever, then I don't know if I want to work with you, because you don't seem excited about your own project, right? So anyways, tip one, let me see how many of these things. Oh, well, there you go. I actually went through each one of those just now. Let's see. Keep it short. Keep it. Oh, well, there's the whole presentation. I don't know if I would want to go back through each one of those tips, but basically, I'm sure that what I said in my explanation of each one of those is, see, there's ask yes questions, not no questions. Oh, there's a couple of examples of those. Have you ever noticed? You know how? I'll never forget when. Doesn't it seem like? And all those would be questions that would not have a true yes or a no to them. Share your insight. Anyway, so I'll let you guys read that on your own as far as the individual bullet points, but I'm pretty sure that I hit most of those. All right, so that's the art of the verbal pitch. It's trying to engage with people in this situation that know you're coming, right? Because they've set up a meeting with you, you're there to give them that. Now, in that situation, but in the other one with the, let's say the elevator pitch, they're not ready for you, right? So learning how to read that situation, having like a longer version of that pitch, a shorter version of that pitch, just giving them a business card and saying, we'd like to work with you. And being able to read that person. Are they super busy? Are they going to throw your card away? Does it even matter? Anyways, so let's leave this one. Let's go to the next one. Let's go home. And let's do... Did I do game pitch? No. Let's see what I left with this one. Okay. Yeah, we'll go over this. All right, so giving your game pitch, right? So this one is more about the formal game pitch, not the elevator pitch, right? So game pitch. Important pitch skills, presentation skills. So what presentation skills means is that you have a topic that you're going to discuss, you've figured out how you're going to discuss that topic, you have bullet points, and you sort of, it's almost sort of like an explanation of what it is, then maybe a showing of what, or a demonstration of what that is, and then summing it up with, wasn't that interesting? Here's what you should take away from it, right? So here's the subject matter and the information that you need to understand what we're going to show you. Here's a demo or an example of that thing happening, and then on the end, a wrap up. Here's the points again. Here's what you should take away from this presentation. From there, we have writing skills, right? So obviously, it's a verbal pitch, but if you have if you have any type of visual presentation in the background, like a PowerPoint or a PDF, or even a pamphlet, right? So you have a printed material like a pamphlet that you might hand to somebody. So in that situation, definitely writing skills would be important. Make sure that you use your spell check, that you don't have any misspelled words. I'll give you an example. When I first started making flyers for the DJ nights that we were going to, and they had to be printed because this was circa 1998, 99. So the internet really wasn't what the internet is today with social media. I think YouTube and even MySpace was a few years off. And I handed somebody a flyer and they looked at it and they go, "You realize you have a misspelling in this?" And I go, "Are you serious?" And they go, "Yeah." And then, and the reason why they brought it to my attention was because they also made flyers. So they were trying to sell me their business and be like, "Hey, if you need somebody that can proofread your stuff before you put it out there, I think that would be great." Because if I got a flyer and there was a spelling mistake in there, I'd go, if they didn't catch this and it's on their flyer and this is what they're using to promote with, then I can expect that the event is going to be the same way. There are going to be certain things that there's expectations or so that are supposed to be there, and then they're not because they didn't pay attention to some Monday detail that then screwed something up further on down the line. So definitely that you want to go through your spell check and make sure that things are spelled correctly. I usually if I have any type of a long document, I'll actually send it to my sister, who's actually a professional proofreader for a medical company. So that's what she does. So she used to do that for all our papers, which was funny. It was three boys and my one poor sister, and every time we had a paper that needed to be turned in. Remember, this was pre-computers, pre-this, pre-that. So because we grew up as kids in the 80s. We had a spell and speak, but there was no internet. You had a dictionary, and if the word you were looking for wasn't in the dictionary, you didn't know how to spell it, then you didn't know how to look it up. But anyways, writing skills, right? Communication skills, verbal skills, speaking to people. You're going to have to break out of your shy bubble. If you're one of these people that don't like to engage, your business is going to be very difficult for you. You're going to have to fund some kind of business that doesn't mean that you have to talk to a lot of people. And unfortunately, unless you're an indie with one person, you're going to have to talk to somebody at some point. And you'll need to end up talking to money people, investment people, bankers, lawyers, people that use communication for a living, and be able to communicate with them. I can tell you that working in sales definitely helped me sort of break through my own little personality bubble. I'm by nature an introvert. I don't actually like talking to people. I hate engaging with people. I think most people are stupid, and that's just, I don't mean that for anybody, but I mean, like I always think I'm the biggest head in the room, and that's just my
Jeez.
no, I understand it sounds bad, but I really like, look, I used to go, I've been a club DJ, I've gone out a lot, and there's just a certain point where you start turning into your parents. You're like, stupid kids on my lawn. And I think I'm starting to hit that. I don't like going out. I like going to bed early. Anyways, but unless I'm in working, like honestly, I like to work with people on projects in something that's mentally engaging. And if you're not doing that, then I'm not the person that likes to go to a party and try to go socially be a butterfly. I'd probably sit at that party in the corner playing with the dog, because I would probably be more engaged with that than trying to be social. So that said, you listen to me and you go, no way, no way. You seem like a very social person. You seem to be able to talk well and communicate your ideas. And a lot of that has come through sales, because I was forced to be out on the floor and talk and engage with people. And that's where actually I've lost my flavor for small talk, is because I would have to do that at the jewelry store so often, or whatever sales position I was at. Oh, hi, my name is blah, 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 and I am super interested in everything you say. And that's so fake. And so that's why I sort of have like a distaste for that. You do it for long enough, most people say, I'm done with sales. You can only do it for so long. Unless you're a sociopath, and then maybe sales is right up your alley. But using communication skills, being able to talk to an individual, about something that you're not well, maybe you're engaged about, and you need to get them engaged about it, whether you're doing it in a what seems like a genuine way or synthetic way. As we discussed earlier, feeling genuine is better. Um, and then also more or less what you'd be doing. And so that's sort of like what the elevator pitch is, because the elevator pitch is to a person, an individual that you have a short amount of time with. It's not to a group of people. That's sort of like what the small sales pitch is. And then oh, okay. If you were there Saturday, I was there, but I was in the back in the lessons department. Um, and it also depends on when you went. I was there early morning. Let's see. And then working in a classroom, I was able to talk to a group of people, which has a slightly different dynamic, right? So talking to a group of people is very, very different from talking to an individual. Talking to an individual, you can get more personal. You're a little bit closer. The way you speak is different. When you talk in front of an audience, it's about projecting. It's about making your point. It's about being concise, and then making sure that everybody in the group understood, right? Whereas if you're talking to one person, you can sort of read that person because you're looking at them. And then if you're looking to a group, you sort of have to like move the group as a group, right? Make sure that if somebody asks a question, you get to them. Make sure that you're making eye contact with everybody in the room, that you're not just focusing in on one person, because that feels creepy. And so there's slightly different communication skills that happen there. And then salesmanship is the ability to be able to, here's the point, this is what I want you to focus on, this is the action that I want you to take, and then let me see how I can get there as eloquently as possible, right? Let's see. So presentations, okay, I see there's a spelling mistake. Presentation. Wow, that's a bunch of spelling mistakes. I wonder if I did this on purpose. Want to write down game briefs. Sometimes people want their slides to tell the entire story for them, which makes things different because A, this causes people to spend more time reading the slide than paying attention to what's being said, and B, it can create a block of text in the screen that makes it difficult to really take in what's being tried to say. The focuses of the presentation of the slide should be a guide, not a replacement for what you're going to say.
I think you were referencing all your base are belong to us, because
Yeah, I think this slide
yeah,
was done on purpose, right? Because that picture up in the top right-hand corner, that is very distracting. That is like a dog helicopter following a Thelma and Louise kitty on down some dirt road. Maybe
yeah.
with some, yeah, the one kitty looks like the cliff is coming, right? Like they can see it. Anyways, but it's ultra distracting, has nothing to do with the information on the slide, right? So don't just throw pictures up there to throw pictures. Make sure your spelling is correct. Make sure that the bullet points all match. See how I'm actually using like two different types of bullet points, right? There's the big square bullet, white ones, and then the sort of like, I guess that's like a magenta color, yellow square ones that are hollow. The text is all sorts of different color. There is actually an A and a B that's in there that should have been, you should have hit return and maybe notched in, as opposed to just creating that giant line of yellow, very, very sticking out text. That picture down there at the bottom, you can't really see what it is. It's so small that some of the unless you knew what you were talking about. The other thing too is that the text on there is hard to read because it's small, and just not a very good slide. So don't use pictures with text on them that you can't crop out, so then that way it might be saying something that you don't want it to say, right? So if you are going to use presentations, these are things that you should be looking out for. Oh, great. Normal slide, right? Pitching a game. For this course, you'll be practicing the elevator pitch for your game. You'll need to win over an audience with a certain amount of time. While there are no obstacles, where there is no absolute rules, there are certain things that you should follow that will guarantee your success. Rule one: figure out your game. If you know what your product is, you can sell it better, right? So in your groups, when you guys break up, you may not know exactly how to put the game together. You may not even have any type of a demo, but if you know exactly what your game is going to be about, then there are things that you can sell, right? So the things that you might know now would be like what type of game it is, what kind of look and feel the game might have, what type of controls the game might have, how the game will be played, challenges or rewards, key features. I guess here it could have an educational element to it. But any of those questions you should be able to answer, right? So you should, as you're putting your verbal presentation together and your presentation together, think about those things. And if somebody asks you a question about any of those things, hey, so are you going to be using? Oh, it's going to be keyboard and mouse. We're thinking about going into a portable device platform like phone or iPad or mobile device platform, but we're not there yet. Maybe that's one of the things you guys can help us with, right? What's the look and feel of your game? Oh, well, it's a horror slasher where there's a couple of stealth elements in there that we're going to sneak in. We're going to try to make that as a key feature, but if it doesn't work out, we're going to redline that. But we're definitely going to leave the horror slasher feel for it, and we're going to focus on the melee, right? Boom, I have answers for each one of these questions, right? And these would be things that if we're not asked or were not addressed in the presentation, like if you skipped one of these things, as somebody in the audience that you just gave this pitch to, I would have raised my hand. I go, well, how do you play the game, right? Which is that question right there. How do you play the game? So you should be prepared for things like that. So pitching a game, rule 2, the presentation. If you get to pitch your game in a presentation. So if you have the ability to be able to have your PowerPoint slide in the background, state your presentation's purpose. Start with the one-sentence description of your game. Slide points should build the game's overall goal over time. Ensure clarity and workflow in your presentation. Keep points brief. No long, rambling explanations. Presentations provide cues to the presenter, not a full description to the audience. Figure out your technical setup ahead of time. So, because you're going to be giving a presentation, you need to make sure that the presentation is concise, that it has a opening page like a book does, right? That there may be like a table of contents that sort of explains what you're going to be, sort of like what Canvas does for us, right? Where we have, this is project 1, and here's all the information that you need for project 1, and then we've been slowly going over that information, right? We've been keeping our points long because I'm trying to explain it to you in a classroom, but if this was a presentation for a sales presentation or the game presentation, you want to keep them brief because you have to explain a lot in a short amount of time, so then that way as to not waste the other people's time. Because if they get bored, you've lost them, right? So you want to keep it exciting, you want to keep it moving, and the only way that happens is by knowing your material, having a good presentation that is set up in an order that makes sense for how you're going to present the information. This is our game. This is our character. This is maybe a map of what one of the worlds look like as a thing. You can see this. You can see that. You can see this. Those are all going to give the game a spooky vibe, which is going to fit with. Next slide, what we're doing with the melee. This is going to be a really cool key feature. These key features are going to make people want to play because it's always been missing in these kind of games. Next slide. As far as the blood splatter effects, here's an example, blah, blah, blah. This is what they're going to look like. As somebody that personally loves hacker slasher games, then I really hate it when they mess this up, right? And so we've spent a lot of time with our art people making sure that this looks good, right? And so I didn't belabor any one of the points. I explained it. I sort of gave you like a little summary of what's going on with that. I tied in a small story about me personally liking it and being upset when the thing didn't get done right. And all of that would be in the slide presentation, right? You heard me say, next slide. next slide, next slide. So each one of the slides should be image, some data points, and then from there you should be able to speak freely about the information that's on that slide. Let's see. And then, oh, big one, technical setup ahead of time. So as somebody myself who does events where I need to take equipment that needs to be plugged in, I always, if possible, go and look at where the venue is to figure out, A, do I have enough plugs? B, where the heck am I going to set up? C, is it, am I, is the room too big? Do I need more speakers? Am I going to need a bigger setup for this event? All those kind of questions would be determined ahead of time prior to me showing up to the event. Because if I show up to the event the day of and find out that there's one plug in the room and I've got 50 things that I need to plug in, I'm screwed. I can't do the event, right? So the same thing here. If you're going to go in and you're going to be giving a presentation, and they're not, and you're going to ask them, hey, do you guys have a presentation room? Does that presentation room have a projector? What is the model of that projector? What kind of input? Because then I could look it up. I can see what kind of input. Is it an HDMI input? Does it have a VGA input? What kind of, if I'm going to bring a computer that has my PowerPoint on there, do they have a computer there that has PowerPoint on it? You know what I mean? If so, do they have, is there a USB port? Can I plug in my USB? You don't want to find out the day of and then not be able to use that as an element in your presentation where it would have worked effectively and that you would have been using to keep you on point or whatever, because it's not there, right? So for us, the first time you'll be able to see the room that we're going to be in is going to be on October 4th. When we meet Monday for class for the first time. Remember that project 1 is due the week after that. So definitely that we all need to see if there's a projector in that room, how that ends up working out. I'm sure that there is. I mean, it's a classroom. There has to be a projector. Otherwise, how am I going to show you what I'm doing on my screen? So I'm pretty sure that's in there. But definitely that you would need to know ahead of time when going into a room what kind of equipment and what's in there. Rule 3, engage the audience, right? So I've already given you a couple of examples of that, like telling stories or setting up like a future of a kind of event where wouldn't it be nice if, and then you give an example of some type of a scenario. So present, don't read. Right, so you'll notice that I sometimes do a little bit of both because I haven't seen these slides in a while, so I have to sort of like read through it and then go, oh, okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to say about this, which is bad on my part. I should have probably have gone over the presentations prior to giving them, but you've taught the class enough times where you feel confident with the material. I just need to know what's on each slide. But present, don't read. So the worst thing that you can do is go pitching a game. Rule number 3. Engage the audience. Present, don't read. Make it interesting. Get people involved. It's about them, not you. Like that monotone thing that doesn't fly. So engage the people, talk to them in a normal tone of voice, speak to them like you were speaking to a friend, or if it's more formal, like your boss. And then and engage them. Try to get them to talk to you, respond to you, and some of the times these things the responses can be nonverbal, right? If somebody's in their chair and they're at the edge of their chair because they're listening to your information, well, then them sitting at the end of their chair means that they're engaged, they're active, they're leaning forward into the discussion. If they're laid back and their eyes are looking around the room and they're trying not to make eye contact, or they look at their watch every couple of times, those are also nonverbal clues that are telling you that they're not engaged, that you need to be changing your tactic, or you're boring them in your pitch, and so you might need to shift it around or find a way that you can engage them better. Your delivery is how you actually give it. So, feeling comfortable. Like I can look at somebody and I can tell when they're stressed out. I've been a teacher long enough. I've seen people that are not prepared. I've been in sales. I've seen people that are nervous because they're about to get married, and all the stuff that they're going to have to pay for, and the ring and the wedding and this, and you can see them biting their nails, you know. So definitely that if you're giving a presentation, you're giving sales, you want to feel confident, you want to feel comfortable, you want to speak clearly, you want to have, and you'll see that I'll do that every once in a while, like speak clearly. I stopped, I slowed down, I put speak, space, clearly, space, and then I paused afterward, and then I picked up with my thought. And that's sort of like putting quotations around a word, right? So that would be a way to speak clearly so that you can make a point. Don't rush, right? Don't try to fit in too much information to the point where it feels like you're just running through you're just saying stuff, and you doesn't sound very clear, and you just want to try to get through all the information because the sooner that you finish with this, the sooner that everything's going to be over, no, that doesn't seem very confident. It doesn't seem like you know your faculties. It seems like you're
See, Professor, you sound
yes.
as if you're just trying to catch a train or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, you definitely don't want to deliver and be in a rush, because what that means is that, at least to somebody like, to the presenter, that you don't even want to be there. So if you don't want to be there and you're trying to get out as soon as possible, well, that doesn't make me feel comfortable about wanting to start a business with you, because you're going to have that same kind of rushed, and then why are you rushed? You know what I mean? That presents a whole nother question. Like, is there something else that's more important than what you're doing with us? Because if it is, then maybe, again, I don't want to go into business with you, because something else is more important than me and my business. And then maintain focus. So make sure that you don't go off on a tangent and start talking about something that has nothing to do with your material, or you give too many descriptions or too many stories, and then you're never able to bring it back to the point. Sometimes that happens. You lose your train of thought. You lose your train of thought, and then again, that looks like you're absent-minded, like you can't focus on things. I mean, remember, this thing's only supposed to be 10 minutes long, so if you can't maintain focus in 10 minutes, it's not a good look. Let's see. Stop thinking about the presentation. Focus on telling your story to one person. Practice, practice, practice. What would you enjoy, and don't stress. So those would be general presentation tips. Obviously, the more you practice, the better you feel with the material, the more naturally it rolls off the tongue. Is this a presentation that you would enjoy, right? Don't make a presentation that you think that people want. Make a presentation that's actually enjoyable, that has energy, that gets people excited about your project. Don't look stressed, obviously. It's a bad look. There's a really great example that happened in American politics where there was the debate between Richard Nixon and I think it was JFK, John F. Kennedy. And it was one of these first times that the debate had been televised, right? So the people that watched the debate on TV said that JFK won the debate because he looked poised, he didn't look nervous. Richard Nixon looked he kept moving his hands around. He looked very uncomfortable on stage. He had a napkin or a paper towel that he was using to take the sweat off of his face. And remember that these were studios back in the 1950s with bright lights, because they needed a lot of light to be able to get through the cameras of the day. So he wasn't sweating because he was sweating. He was sweating because he was hot, because the lights were on him, right? So, but the people who watched the debate on TV said, he looks stressed. He doesn't feel confident because of the way that he looks. And the people that listened to the debate thought that Richard Nixon had won, because the way that Richard Nixon was able to deliver his lines, and the way that he was prepared, and the way that he sounded more like somebody that you wanted in charge. So it was really interesting where on one side, people that only got a chance to hear it said, one person won and the other one didn't, whereas people that got to see it said this person won where the other person didn't. Did my cat go away for some reason? I think my TV popped off. That's really weird. So I'll just get rid of the cat for now. Yeah, we'll have to figure out what happened with that. Anyways, maybe the power supply on that computer went dead. So definitely don't stress, don't look stressed. And then right, and don't think of it as a presentation, think of it as a story that you want to tell somebody, right? So that's that first point that's up there. I think this was great examples of pitches. If you ever get to watch Shark Tank, that's a great sales pitch program. Gives you lots of clues, lets you see different people present different products in very much the same fashion that we are doing in this situation, right? You're coming to them, it might be a panel or a group of people, you're going to give your presentation and they're going to give you a yay or a nay on it based on your presentation. So this is a great example, is to go and watch Shark Tank or go watch a couple of episodes of Shark Tank and see how they're doing their presentations. So this is a gravity well to help them reach their destiny. I think this was a presentation for a game. I don't know. Game design. Oh, okay. So this is an example of a presentation. So the name of the game is Rocket Launcher. The point of the game is to use different planetary bodies to launch your satellites further and further out into space. You adjust, so the two controls that you have, like how do you play it, is you adjust the speed and angle of each one of your launches to be able to get them to where they need to be. When the rockets are launched, the paths are shown as they pass through the objects, and then they are crashed into them. So that's what you'd actually see as you're playing. Points are awarded for arriving to different planets or to passing objects between those planets. There is an educational component to this game, which talks about, how physics work and, their trigonometry or whatever. So we plan to make this game available to students at the college level so that they can learn about, this. So those would be and this should have been a pitch that I should have given, but it would have been an example of a pitch. So my name is Martin. I work for this company. This is the game that we're creating. This is the main key feature in the game. This is how you play the game. This is what's going to make the game exciting. Our target audience is students of this level or this college level or educational level, and then that would have been here. And that we think that we might even be able to get sponsorship through maybe NASA or something like that, because we can show how this game helps people think about asteroids or gravitational fields and gets them used to the math that they're going to need if they were going to do this later in life. But anyways, so that would have been my presentation had I read my slides and been prepared. But and you can see how I'm setting that up, right? So first I give you the name, what the general idea is, then I become a little bit more specific about it, and then in the end I explain why I think this is a great idea and different ways that we could engage those target audiences to make money, hopefully, with this type of a game. So that's that presentation, and Martin has now been talking for a full hour. So let me go to one of the videos, and we'll break this down now into the elevator pitch. So we'll watch elevator pitch video 1. We'll listen to it for a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back and I'll make some comments. We'll watch video 2. We'll watch it, come back, and make some comments, and then we'll do the same thing with the things not to do in your game pitch, or 30 things that you should avoid, right? So let's click on the first video. I do these are cheesy videos. They're made by the equivalent of TikTokers that are, I guess, more YouTubers than TikTokers, but whatever. TikTok before it was TikTok was YouTube. And of course we have commercial.
Go over some great elevator pitch examples for students. If you don't know what an elevator pitch is, check out my video, How to Make an Elevator Pitch. To successfully network and advance your career, you need to be adaptable. That's why your pitch will change depending on who you're talking to. Luckily for you, all you need to change is the call to action at the end. The goal of every elevator pitch should be to set up a better time to meet or talk, or to get the contact information for someone directly involved in the hiring process. If you're already speaking with someone involved with hiring, your pitch should open up a constructive conversation. It's then your responsibility to either land an interview or take the next step in the process. Let's run through some common examples of elevator pitches in different situations. Let's start with the classic example. Imagine you're at a career fair speaking with an HR representative or recruiter for a company you'd like to work for. These people are very much involved with the hiring process, so you can be direct. As you'll recall from my video on how to make an elevator pitch, your pitch should be structured like this. Number 1, who you are and what you've been doing lately. Number 2, what makes you unique. Number 3, your goal. And number 4, your call to action. Number 1.
Okay, so really quick before he moves on. Great little bullet list, right? So who are you and what have you been doing? What makes you unique? Your goal, and then your call to action. Hi, my name is Martin. I work with X, Y, and Z company. We're working on these kind of products. Our goal is to make these products available for market. Here's my business card. I'd love to, if you would call us and maybe set up a day that we can meet and day and time that we can meet where we can discuss things further, right? Very quick elevator pitch. Didn't get into a lot of, maybe I could have gone into what makes me unique a little bit more, or what makes the game that I'm working on more. Hi, my name is Martin. I work for X, Y, and Z company. We're currently working on a game called ABC 123. It's a business startup. We already have interest from these people, and these people. It's a first-person shooter game, and we think it's going to take the market by storm because we're using these kind of features. We'd love for you to contact us. Here's my card. We have some time available next week. Please let me know what your schedule is like. So very quick, not very in-depth, sort of brazing over topics. Very short, very precise, but a great sort of list that you can use there to set up the flow of your elevator pitch.
3, your goal. And number 4, your call to action. Number 1. My name's Tony Thompson, and I've been a member of the Finance Club at Super Sweet University for 2 years. I'm currently running this year's stock pitch competition. I'm at my best when I need to solve a complex problem by analyzing and focusing on the most important information. I want to land a spot in the Investment Banking Analyst Summer Internship Program at JP Morgan this summer. Here's a copy of my resume. What type of candidate are you looking for? This example is a great way to start off a constructive conversation about yourself and the company.
I just realized that was a chimp wearing headphones in the background.
For me, the shorter you can make an elevator pitch, the better. This example is concise, informative, and most importantly, conversational. Now you just have to close on getting an interview. Another common situation is speaking with an employee of a company you'd like to work for. This person can usually put you in contact with someone in HR or a recruiter, but engaging them directly about the hiring process might not be productive.
Okay, so that's a very good point. From doing research, you'd know who you were talking to, or what kind of position that would be in a job. So if or in a gaming company. So if you're talking to the artist and you're a programmer, does it make a lot of sense to talk to them about programming and what they're doing with programming, because that person wouldn't know anything about it, and they may or may not be anybody that is directly involved with the decision making point. So a lot of this point goes back to, don't waste your time giving a detailed pitch or a pitch to somebody that can't do anything for you, right? So you always want to make sure that you find the person that is most in charge or the person that is capable of making a decision, right? So, for example, if somebody walked into my store and they were looking for a job and they went into their resume with me, it wouldn't matter because I'm just a salesperson there. I have no ability to be able to hire them. They would have to give that presentation to the boss or whoever is in HR that could hire them. So make sure that whoever you're giving the presentation to is qualified enough, or you know what they are in the company to then have better expectations. Because if you are talking to somebody that can't hire you, then it doesn't make any sense. What they can't promise you anything.
Hi, my name's Andy Anderson, and I'm a senior at Awesome College. I interned at XYZ Marketing Company last year, and I learned a great deal about social media advertising and branding. Over the last 3 months, I've helped the campus coffee shop increase their sales by 20% through my social media marketing campaign. I'm focused on getting the digital marketing analyst position at Amazing Media after I graduate. Here's my card. Who would you recommend I speak with at Amazing Media to learn more about the opportunity? With this approach, they understand who you are.
So he basically gave the same pitch, but he realizes that the person that he's talking to is not somebody that could actionably do anything for him. So he asked the question, who can I talk to be able to get, the outcome that I'm looking for? In this case, being hired. For us, it would be getting an additional meeting with the client so that you can give them a more formal pitch on your idea.
What you're interested in, and that you can produce results. It's unlikely they'll have any reservations about putting you in touch with the right person. At times, you'll find yourself at an event, and during casual conversation, someone will ask you about your career plans. Classic, right? You might not know much about the person. They could be involved in the industry you're looking to break into, or not. Either way, here's a good approach to leverage that situation to advance your interests. My name's Joe Jacobs, and I'm a junior at Really Cool College. Right now, we're learning how to use advanced analytics in the sales process. In our sales competition last month, I was the highest selling student by over 20%, and I used advanced analytics.
I love the fact he keeps using 20%.
To help achieve that result. My goal is to become a commercial salesperson at Bridgestone after I graduate. Do you know anyone at Bridgestone or in the tire industry that I can connect with? Not everyone.
Okay, so there he said, because an elevator pitch is sort of like a prepared pitch that you have at any given time based on who you might run into, right? So he said, hey, you're sitting around, you're lounging, somebody asks you a question about what you're doing. If you're unprepared, you may not be able to respond to them the right way, and you may lose an opportunity. But if you already have a small pitch ready to go, then you don't lose that opportunity, and you recognize that this person may be able to do something for you. So oftentimes you'll run into, and this is what before there was social networking, there was actual networking. There was going out, going to a club, going to a bar, going to some type of an event, church event, this, whatever, where there is a group of people that do random things and getting to know them. So then that way one of them may be able to end up doing something for you, or might know somebody or be a friend of a friend. And that's how you get your in. For example, the job that I worked at that was ADV Films, they weren't hiring. They weren't necessarily looking for anybody to come in and work, but two of the people that I used to work with at Guitar Center ended up working for them as audio engineers. So they went in and they learned, were doing voice recording for these people. And I asked, I ran into my friends again and said, after they had stopped working at Guitar Center, because I was like, where'd you guys go? And they're like, oh, we work for ADV Films. And I was like, oh, cool, because I'm looking for an internship. Is there anybody there that would, be looking for this? And then I gave them a small, this is what I'm doing, blah, 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 let me know. Here's my, they obviously had my number because they're my friends. And that's how I ended up getting the job at ADV Films. So it was through business contacts that I had made at Guitar Center that ended up landing that job. And I actually got the job not because I was looking for a job, but because I was looking for an unpaid internship that then turned into a job. For about a year. I think I worked with them for about 2 years. I got paid for about 2 years. I was there for about 2.5. But social settings where if you can eloquently, you know, and for that, in that situation, they were my friends, so it was very, very informal. But in other situations, it might just be an acquaintance of your dad, or an acquaintance of a friend, or somebody randomly. You're at a bar. They're at the next table over, and they're over listening to what you're saying, and they just talk, or they butt in and they say something. So having a prepared pitch all the time for the thing that you're interested in is not a bad idea.
Will be able to help you, but if they can't, hand them your business card so you can get connected. This is the perfect way to turn small talk into a potential career opportunity. Get a business card with your contact information on it. Yes, even if you're a student. It's much easier in informal situations to use that rather than whipping out your resume. Remember to read the situation and be prepared to change your approach if necessary. If your interaction has to be brief, hand them your business card so you can connect at a later time.
Notice that the business card here was a big thing, right? He's talking specifically about a business card. A business card, I think most of us have seen what a business card is. It's usually got your name, what you can do, and a way to be able to contact you. Now, a lot of people don't like having business cards because they don't want to give out their personal number. They don't want people having their email address. But if you're going into business for yourself, you like for myself, I have my telephone, my regular phone number that I get through Verizon, which I have to pay the bill today. I have to remember to do that. And then I have another number that's tied into that phone through Google Phone, or Google number, or something like that. I forget what the actual service is called. But I went online at the time of the outbreak, when the outbreak was first starting, because I needed to have a way to be able to contact my students at Guitar Center, because nobody was able to come into work. Everything had to go online. They were way less prepared for doing online stuff than HCC was, because HCC already had like a Canvas, and it was very easy flip to just everything be on Canvas. Whereas Guitar Center was like, nobody knew how to do anything, and it took them a while. So they were just like, here's your student list. See who's willing to go online with you, and then figure out how you're going to do that before we can figure out how to get it right. And at that time, I don't like giving out my personal number. Like I said, I'm a very, very much an introvert, and I don't like people calling me. Most of the time, I just let telephone calls go straight into voicemail, because if you didn't care enough to leave a voicemail, then I shouldn't be picking up the phone anyways. But I got a secondary number, ran through, and now I can give that number out. It still goes to my phone, but I'm not giving out my personal number. And on that telephone number, I can actually put a when it can answer phone information from. So that number is only available to contact me between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. If it's outside those times, it just goes automatically to a voice message, and then I'll see it, because it'll come through as a message, but it won't ring through my phone, which is what I wanted to try to avoid. I didn't want another leash. But anyway, so the business card would have, if I was going to put out a business card now, that phone number would be on there instead of my own personal number. The other thing also is a website. If you have a Facebook, you can create a Facebook page, and then that page can be a public page where your own Facebook profile is private. So there are different ways that you can do it. My business card might have the Green Room YouTube page on it. So there I might put my YouTube information and give the link for that, or give my link to Linktree, which is a service that actually puts all your links on one page. So if somebody clicks on one of your links, or you only have the ability to be able to drop one link there, it'll send you to a service that then gives them access to all your social media sites, or gives them a link to them. So let's let this guy finish and wrap
Let me know
up.
if there's other situations you'd like me to cover. If you have questions about your situation or the strategies we just talked about in this video, let me know in the comments.
Okay, so he's making a plea to the people that are watching the video. I think the information is for the most part there. So good information, gave us a nice list of things to make sure that we hit. Business card being, I think, a big part of what we do with this. For the person who is the artist in your group, you might think about making a business card. If we do end up meeting in real person, maybe you'll have, like, you can just print one on a piece of paper and cut it out. I don't need you to go and print 100 business cards for a fake business, but Be interesting to have one for the presentation. I think it was part of the printed materials. We'll go back and look. But definitely the business card is a great way to give somebody your information quickly, make some kind of thing, and then they have the business card to look at. Also, business cards, depending on their shape and what they look like. My business card, for example, one of them, the one for my for GRR Entertainment, looks like a cassette tape. So the front image is a cassette tape. It has the name of our logo on the tape, like if it was like on a piece of tape on the tape, on the cassette, like a piece of Scotch tape on the cassette tape is what I'm trying to say. Tape. But and then the back side has like a washed out version of the same thing from the front side, but without the piece of tape on it. And then it has the information how to get a hold of us, what our QR. Like I even use a QR code, so I have a QR code that you can scan with your phone, and then that takes your phone directly to our website. So you don't even have to take the information from my website to access it. You can just QR code it. And that's on my business card. So that's what mine look like. Then I have another business card for guitar. So I have multiple business cards. I have another one for Guitar Center. Now, Guitar Center doesn't print business cards for its employees unless you work in management. So if you're a manager, they'll print your business cards. So I got to see what their cards look like, and they were pretty cheesy. They were just black and white on paper because Guitar Center's printing them. So they're going to try to be minimal on the money for that, right? So what I did was I took my Photoshop skills, made my own business card, grabbed their logo, figured out what color the Guitar Center red color is, put like an interesting like a side to it, so it sort of looks like you're looking into the guitar hole of a guitar. And then it's the red color for it. It has my name, Lessons, the store's number on the front, and on the back has the same type of patterning. In the large red section, I have things that I teach, right? So run DAWs, mix and master, DJ software, hardware, home recording, digital music creation, synthesizers, signal flow, and gear tech. So anybody looking at my card on the front side knows where I work, what location I'm at, what my telephone number at that location, and how to get a hold of me. And then what I do, which is a lessons instructor, and then on the back side, what I can actually help them with. Now, the only thing I don't like about my card, and something that I would recommend, is to always, if possible, have somewhere on there that a blank space where you can write information on the back of the card, right? So a lot of people will have a really nice front side, and then they'll leave the back side completely blank. And then that will allow them to be able to take a pen and write on the back or jot on the back of the business card information. Now, I will tell you that I personally have gotten business cards from people that have got that kind of situation on there, and I've written something on the back of that card, and I need that information, and that card travels with me for a lot longer than it would have had that not been on there and me not been able to write on the back of it, because I need that information. So there's other ways to win, not, and I've seen some business cards where, for example, I've been in the DJ's world for a long time, so I've seen people that will get custom shaped cards where it'll be round instead of square, have all the same information, but it looks like a record, right? Or it looks like a CD, or it looks like a pair of headphones, or there's a piece of the headphones that come off, or something where the card's a little bit misshapen, or it'll look like a microphone or something like that. I've seen some pretty interesting shaped cards. And those will also, people will hold on to them because they look cool. And I used to actually keep, when I was out and about, I would keep a drawer of business cards, meaning other people's business cards that I thought were cool, just because they were cool. If I was ever looking for an idea for a business card, go through my box and see if there were some cool ideas that I could snag off somebody. Gank. Let's see. Elevator pitch 2. Good information. This lady's voice is a bit annoying, but...
Hi, I'm Lauren Berger. This is my elevator pitch. Take 1. Hi, I'm Lauren, and I want to do this, and I want to... Oh, my gosh. Hi, I'm Lauren, and I want to do everything, and I want to be your best friend, and please hire me. Hi, I'm Lauren, and I really want to work for you, and I'm so excited to be standing next to you right now, and I just want to tell you everything about me real quick. It'll only take me 10 minutes, even though we only have 30 seconds right now. Hey everybody, those elevator pitches were not so good, and I'm gonna make sure that after watching this video, you know how to do a much better version of the elevator pitch. If the executive that you would love to work for, right? The executive that works at that company that you just love was literally in an elevator with you, what would you say? It's actually a great way to think about how to present yourself in a professional setting. So I'm going to give you the intern queen take on the elevator pitch.
Oh my
So
goodness,
in
the
order
music in the
to put
background is
together an
also
elevator
cheesy.
pitch, we need a couple pieces of information. We're going to write them here. So the first step is going to be, who are you, right? As silly as it sounds, you got to say your name. You know, I'm Lauren Berger. It's so nice to meet you, right? You got to say it. So then you want to give them a little background. I'm Lauren Berger. I graduated from UCF and I'm a PR major. Okay? Now, depending on the situation, you might not be talking about college. If you meet someone years after college, you're probably going to talk about where you work right now. I'm Lauren Berger. I'm the community manager at a website called Intern Queen. And sometimes you need to give a little bit of extra context. So if you need to explain and provide context. So if you go to a school that, let's be real, no one's heard of, or if you work for a company where somebody may have not heard of it, you know what those companies are, you know what those schools are, make sure that you explain and you provide a little bit of context. You know, I go to Southwestern University, which is located in Lakeland, Florida, and known for their PR program. And I'm going to rely on you all to be the judge of if your story needs a little bit of context, okay? The next thing that you're going to do is make the connection. A lot of times when people do an elevator pitch, they're literally just like talking to no one. And the reality is that whenever you're pitching, you're always talking to someone, whether it's literally someone in an elevator standing next to you, whether you're pitching your business to Shark Tank, or you're just pitching it to a professor or a classroom. So you want to make that connection factor right away. You know, what are you trying to accomplish? Why do you want the person next to you to listen? Maybe you're a PR major and this is a big PR executive standing next to you. So I'm connecting what I'm doing to what the person standing next to me does. You know, I'd love for you to invest in my business because, right? You're connecting who you're talking to with what you're offering and what you're selling, which is sometimes yourself. Then the last thing that you want to do, and this is what a lot of people don't cover in the elevator pitch, but you got to make the ask, right? You got to make the ask. And this is the scary part because you're always putting yourself out there and you could be rejected. So I'm actually going to give you both steps. I'm going to say the ask, and then step 6 is going to be the closeout. A pet peeve that I have is a lot of students email me and they ask me for advice, but they're very unclear as to what I can actually help them with. So I'll get this big email with like, I am this, and this, thanks. And they sign their name. I don't know what to do with their email. So oftentimes I write them back and say, you know, hi Marisol, thanks for sharing. How can I help? Because I honestly don't know what they want from me. So I really encourage you to always think about the ask. For example, if you're in an elevator with someone and you want them to be your mentor, well then let's ask them to be your mentor. If you're in the elevator with someone and you want to intern for them, let's ask for an internship. If you aren't sure what you want and you really just want to connect afterward and have a way to stay in touch, let's ask about that. So I think you have to make the ask and then you have to be ready for the closeout because typically you only have about 30 seconds and you're going to have to get out of there somehow, right? You want to always kill them with kindness no matter what they say, and you want to close out in a very pleasant way. So let's go through all the steps real quick. So
I think that was a very important point. Kill them with kindness, and no matter what their disposition is, you stay nice, right? Because you don't know what just happened to that person, what their day is like, what they're trying to get to, and here's this other person that they now have to deal with. And they may, just out of reaction, deal with you in a very like a very like barky kind of way, like get out of my way. But if you're nice to them and they realize that, oh man, that poor person, I just sort of like barked at them, and then they look at your business card and they're like, well, maybe I feel bad for them, let me call them and let me see what's going on. but a good point.
So, who are you? Hi, I'm Lauren Berger. Little bit of background. I graduated UCF and I was a PR major. Provide context. That's University of Central Florida, which is in the Orlando area. The connection. I know all about your company. I've read all about it. I know about all your clients, and I am just such a fan, right? I made the connection. Now make the ask. You know, I am looking for an internship for next summer. I would love to connect with you and find out how to apply and get to the top of your list. The closeout. They say whatever they're going to say. Thank you so much. I'll certainly stay in touch. I'll make sure to email you right after this. So nice meeting you, right? So the who you are, the background, provide context, make the connection, make the ask, and the closeout. So good luck, everyone, and let's do that elevator pitch one more time. Hi, I'm Lauren Berger. So nice to meet you. I graduated from the University of Central Florida. That's in Orlando. And I was actually a PR major. I know all about your PR company, and I am just fascinated by it. I've read all about you. You know, I'd actually love to intern for you this summer. I've had a lot of other internships, and I wanted to ask who I could contact to potentially apply for an internship with your company. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. It was so great meeting you. I'm going to email you tonight, and I definitely want to stay in touch. Thank you.
Okay. So we got to get the information. I like the order of the things that she talks about, the way that she puts it together, and the fact that she tries to make it very concise. Now you got, and the annoying part for me was that fakeness that you detected in her pitch. Hi, I'm so and so, and I'm so happy to see you, and this is who I am. And that's why I can't do sales anymore. Exactly, because I had to be this person every time a customer walked in. I had to be that. So I'm a little bit burnt out. But yeah, definitely that you have to explain who you are. You have to, so let me sort of back up that video so we can actually see those points clearly. There we go. Who am I? What is my background? So, hi, my name is Martin. I'm with such and such company. I'm the programmer and also owner of, or whatever you're going to say your role is in the company. Explain, provide. We're a small company out of Houston. We're trying to get funding for a blah, 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 blah. The connection would be, I know that you guys are a big developer, and you are, I know that you guys do games like this, and we really like your version of this game that you guys did, and so you've made a connection with that person. You said you guys are both game designers, so now instead of looking at you as some random person, you're now somebody that's inside the sphere of stuff that they're doing. You give them the ask. This is what we would like. This is what I would like from you. In this case, it would be an additional meeting or the ability to be able to talk about our ideas. I think we have, the ability to be able to work really well together. And then the closeout, after they say something, maybe you engage with whatever they said. And then the closeout would be, how do you leave them? You know what I mean? You just don't just say all this information and then turn 180 degrees and walk away. You say, well, it was very nice meeting you. I really would like to work with you in the future. Maybe recap the fact that you want to set up a meeting with them, and then you give them the business card, which is a way to be able to get a hold of you.
So good luck, everyone.
Okay. Let's see. Let's leave this video. So that's 2 examples of the elevator pitch. Let's go into the 30 things I hate about your game pitch.
I've been told to tell you in advance that you should silence your cell phones if you haven't already, and that also, please, when it's all over, if you can fill out the evaluation form, that would be really great. And so without much further ado, I'm just going to launch right into 30 things I hate about your game pitch. First, let me give you a little bit of background about why you should even care what I think about your game pitch. I've been in the industry for 20 years. I started off as...
See how he's giving a presentation and he's telling you about who he is? Right? So that wasn't that the first thing we learned about, like, in the elevator pitches, who am I and why you should care? And making a connection with the audience, right?
The creative director for Red Storm Entertainment. I designed Rainbow Six and Ghost Recon, but for the last 14 years, I was a senior game designer at Sony Santa Monica. I only recently left
Sony Games, right? So Sony Santa
go
Monica.
independent. And for a lot of that time, I was one of the guys you pitched to, probably, and I heard several hundred pitches during that time, so that there was a lot of stuff that I saw, and it gives you a unique perspective on it, because if you're the person doing the pitching, you may only do a handful of pitches in your career, but if you're the person receiving the pitching, then you see a lot, and you get to see patterns in how people pitch. And so the genesis of this talk was last year at GDC. I took a whole bunch of pitches, and I was talking to one of the people I was listening with, and we were just shocked at how many mistakes people made, and particularly people made even who'd been in the industry for a really long time, people with 10 or 15 years experience still doing really bad pitches. And we always tried to give people a fair shake. We weren't trying to hold things against them, but at the same time, there's some really obvious things people were doing. And so that was the genesis of where this talk came from. So when I was looking at pitches, there were really two big questions. There's really two things that I want to know. And that is this game worth making? And can this team make it? And anything that's not directed toward answering one of these questions in some form, it doesn't really need to be in your pitch. Or if it's in your pitch, you need to play it down in exchange for answering one of these questions in a meaningful way.
I think that's super important. Why? Because that's the product that you're presenting, right? So if I'm at a jewelry store selling jewelry, then I need to know that the person that's buying it from me, what they want, right? So this is the qualifications. So he's telling you right there, these are the two things that somebody in my position, if I'm going to move on a game, I want to know. Let's go back. What were those two things? Is the game worth making? And can the people in front of me actually make that? The second one is your confidence. The first one is the ideas that you've got for your game, right? All of which will be in your game proposal.
And can this team make it? And anything that's not directed toward answering one of these questions in some form, it doesn't really need to be in your pitch. Or if it's in your pitch, you need to play it down in exchange for answering one of these questions in a meaningful way. So since I only have 30 minutes and I have 30 things, let's let the hate begin. Number one, I don't give a crap about your backstory. A lot of people start off their pitches trying to introduce you to their game world. You hear 20 minutes of like the complete political situation on some fantasy continent, or what the childhood of your protagonist was. And this really doesn't help sell your game at all. If you think also about what you go about when you try to buy a game, you may enjoy knowing all the information while you're playing, but at the point of purchase, when you're deciding whether or not you actually want to have that game, you don't know all that backstory. And if your game can't stand alone with a huge dump of what the backstory is, that's a problem. And it's a problem that can be addressed even at the pitching stage. So first off, 20 minutes of lore will not sell your game. A rule of thumb, look at how the original Star Wars begins. You have a really quick text crawl, it sets up what the situation is, and then you're on into the action. If you need to set things up...
I think that's a fantastic analogy. Because the Star Wars franchise, that's how it started. Here's this text rolling through space. Hey, we have a princess. She's part of a rebellion. There's an evil empire that's after her. Here they are. Boom. And now you're in. So you kind of understand like a very, very quick synopsis of what's going on. Here's the good guy. Here's the bad guy. Bad guy's chasing them. Here's where we find them. Boom. Start movie. So great
Try
point.
to set them up that quickly. Number two, I don't give a crap about your inventory system either. And another pattern that I would see when people would pitch is that they would explain in great detail systems that are very standard. So if it's central to your game that you have a really unique and different inventory system, if that's something that's really different about how your game plays, by all means, yeah, showcase that. But the pitch is not a place to just do a general dump of every mechanic you have, because a lot of times if you say, oh yeah, we've got inventory management, that's all you need to say.
Okay. So so if your character can run, jump, whatever, open a door, well, that's the same stuff that happens in a lot of games. So that doesn't make your game any more unique than anything else. It's like saying, Well, you know, the key selling feature of the difference between a Ferrari and a jalopy is tires, and then just explaining in depth what tires are, and it doesn't make a difference because there's the engine, there's this, there's that, and it's the standard thing on all things. Now, if you have some cool tires on your car that then make that car very, very different from any other tire that's ever come before, then it's a key feature. And at that point, yes, you would brief over it, but you wouldn't go into explaining benign features in your game.
So number 2, don't explain standard features. If anything's there, it needs to be there because it is really core to the concept.
Key features.
Number 3, I'm not going to design your game for you. A lot of times people would come in to do pitches and they would start off with questions. What sort of game do you want to see? Well, or they would give you 2 different options. Like, we're thinking about making this first or third person. What do you think it should be? That's not the place to do that. If a company is interested in hearing different options, they may ask you about that later on in the pitch. But when you start things off, you want to pitch what your creative vision is, what the game is that you want to make and why you want to make it. Don't ask the person that you're pitching to answer questions about what they're looking for or what they're trying to accomplish. If they want something different, they'll tell you that you're asking. So number 3, don't ask me what I want. Tell me what you want to do. Tell me what game you want to make. Number 4, game pillars are not hooks. One of the things that we would always look for to determine if a game was worth making is, what is the hook? What is the unique thing that's going to make this different, that's going to make it stand out from all the other games that are out there? And a lot of times people would think that if they would say, like, oh, here are our pillars, that would satisfy the need for what the hook of the game is. We want to have a really strong fantasy story in a really detailed world, and it's going to be all about hand-to-hand combat. Yeah, those are pillars. Those help keep you on track while you're making the game. But an important part of pitching is to tell the person you're pitching to why somebody would buy this game instead of something else that's already out there. So early on in your pitch, one of the key things you need to emphasize is, what is it that makes your game unique and different from everything else that's out there?
Again, we heard that in the elevator pitch videos that we saw earlier, right? This is my name, this is what I do, this is what makes me unique, right? So you definitely want to put your own shine on, right?
Number 5, you never explain to me what the player does. And this often is tied into the lack of a hook. I would receive game pitches, and people would talk about how beautiful the world was, and what the setting was, and what their story was, and what their monetization model was. But when it came times to actually describing the moment-to-moment gameplay, the experience of the player, it would never be mentioned. Or they would mention sort of offhandedly, oh yeah, it's a platformer. Okay, well, what kind of how is that different? Why do I want to play this platformer instead of the 100 other platformers that are already out there? If you don't have something unique, you need to think about what is going to be unique before you get to the point where you're actually pitching. And describe your mechanics. Be able to talk through moment to moment what it's going to be like for the player to hold the controller in their hand and what they're actually going to be doing. Number 6, in the real world, no one can double jump. And what I mean by this is, don't use realism as a way to excuse elements of your design. A lot of times when you're pitching, you'll be discussing why you made certain creative choices, why you have a certain vision. And whenever somebody would say something along the lines of, oh yeah, we made this choice because you can't really do this, we wanted something that would, unless you're doing a real hardcore simulation, unless the whole selling point of your game is that it's absolutely true to the world, don't excuse design decisions by saying, oh, that's the way it really is. Because for the most part, almost everything you do in a game is unreal in some way. And so justify your design decisions with real reasons, rather than just appealing to realism. And something that's related to that, many times I'd get pitched a game and it would have a frame story. It's a game show. If you pitch something as a game show, I start thinking, well, why do you even need a frame story? Because game shows themselves don't have frame stories. The frame story of a game show is that it's a game show. So if you have a game and it has a really cool mechanic and it's fun to play, you don't necessarily need to put a wrapper around it to explain why the player is doing it. If you really have a reason to do a game show game, by all means, do it. Don't let me stop you. But don't feel the need to justify actions by some sort of artificial frame that you put around it. So if your frame story for your game is that it's a game show, you probably actually don't need a frame story. Just leave that off. It makes everything simpler.
So the keep it simple, stupid comes to mind. And also, if it doesn't need a story, don't give it a story.
Number 8, it's a parody. I always get very suspicious when I'm pitched a game that says, where the person explains that it's a parody, because I wind up thinking, is it really just a crappy game? Did you really start out to make something that was serious and good, and then discover that you didn't get it, and so you say, okay, I'm going to lampshade it. So again, I'm not saying don't make parody games, but announcing up front that it is a parody sets off alarm bells. It makes me suspicious that there is something in the game that is off or wrong, that you don't feel like it could stand on its own without being taken as a joke. Oh, and I just completely screwed up my presentation there. Number 9, you never mention your glaring obvious tech risk. And this goes into, can this team succeed in making it? A lot of times, if you see a lot of pitches and if you've been working on the publisher side a lot, you kind of know what's feasible and what's not. And you know what things are hard to do and what things are easy to do. And if somebody comes in and says, yeah, we want to do a 1,000-person multiplayer game with real-time firefights, then alarm bells go off. And it's fine to do something that's really technologically ambitious. It's fine to do something that's really dangerous and hard. But if you say something like that sounds dangerous and hard, and then you don't explain how you're going to pull that off, then that really makes people nervous. So taking a big risk is great, but if you know you're taking a big risk, then you need to tell people that you're taking a big risk, and you need to acknowledge what you're going to do to address that big risk. This is an interesting one. Number 10, your proof of concept doesn't prove your concept. A lot of times people do prototypes, and you'll see prototypes when you're getting pitched. And you need to be very careful what you're prototyping, because a lot of times what you prototype is the easy stuff, and the easy stuff is not the stuff that needs to be prototyped. So if you show me a prototype and you're like, hey, here's a character that's walking around, I'm like, that doesn't tell me anything. It's very easy to get a prototype working where a character is walking around. If you're going to prototype, it is important to try to focus on the things that are unique and different and hard. Show what it is. That if you have a unique combat mechanic, that's what I want to see in prototype. I don't want to see, oh, hey, the character can open doors, because I know you're going to be able to execute on the character opening doors. So when you think about prototyping or doing proof of concepts, prototype what will showcase the hook of your game and things that may convince the person that you're pitching to that you're able to mitigate the risks that are inherent in what you're proposing. Number 11, having lots and lots of shitty art does not make your art less shitty. If you don't have an artist on staff, if you don't have somebody who can produce high quality images, then try to pay to have just 1 or 2. You don't need to have a lot of art to sell the vision of your game. Often you can sell the look of a game with a single really good image. And you're much better off spending the money or the time, if you're the artist, to produce that one really stellar image that sells the look and tone of the game than to cram your presentation with a lot of stuff that's really mediocre.
Think of like a movie poster.
So yeah, 1 or 2 amazing pieces is better than a dozen mediocre ones. Caught in the trap of trying to think that more art is better if that's not something you can easily execute on. And related to that, make sure that I can tell what's placeholder and what's not. One of the worst things you can do is put stuff in your presentation that is just good enough that I might think that you intended it to be in the final game, but it's really not. So if the person who put this image on the internet is around, thank you for letting me use your image, because it was them showing how they actually would showcase just pure mechanics with pure engineering art. Engineering art is great because there's no way the person you're pitching to can mistake that for what's really going to be in the game. So an obvious placeholder is better than bad art that looks like it's final. Number 13, this is a weird one because this kind of goes against the rule of not having crappy stuff that you pitch with. You polish too early. And part of the reason this image is in here, this is from a game I worked on where we did like final art for all the ships before we had our combat model down, and all the stuff got thrown out. And so If a game is really, really visually polished, but the mechanics are still really broken in prototype, that also is an alarm bell, because it suggests that the team is not putting all the effort where it should be. And it also suggests that a lot of work is going to be redone. So again, if you want to showcase what you're capable of in the art department, that's great. But make sure that it doesn't overshadow the fact that your game in the prototype phase may still be really, really incomplete. A few still images of showing what your art team is capable of is much better than a prototype that is broken in a variety of ways, but that looks amazing, because the person you're pitching to knows that's all going to have to be thrown out when the game actually gets nailed down. So make sure that work in progress actually looks like work in progress. I find this one particularly painful because part of what I do as a designer is write. Your sample dialogue sucks. And this is a problem particularly if you're trying to pitch a game as having a strong story. If you're trying to pitch a game that has a strong story, then part of what I will be judging you on is whether or not you can actually write. And so showcasing a dialogue system that has a bunch of really kind of crappy placeholder dialogue does you no favors. You're much better off not showcasing the dialogue system and instead just showing really good dialogue. Show off that you can actually write something, not the generic, hey, do you have a quest for me? But showcase a dramatic scene where you can actually judge the quality of the story you're able to deliver. So if you're selling the story, do your presentation in a way that convinces me that you're actually capable of executing on what you're selling. This is a bigger deal last year. You're pandering to the latest tech craze. Does this game really need the tech that you're using? Does it need virtual reality? Does it need augmented reality? Back when the Move was a thing, we saw lots of pitches for Move games where the Move made no sense at all. If you want to make a game for one of these platforms, make sure that what you're doing with the new technology, with whatever the new hotness is, actually makes sense in the context of the game. Don't pitch a game where it feels like you had an existing game on the shelf and you've retrofitted some new tech idea because you think that will help you get interest, because in all likelihood that will actually fail. Number 16, this happened more often than you would think. I was with Sony, and you just pitched a phone game to a console publisher. And it would, about 10 minutes in, the response would be, why are we even talking? Why are you wasting your time? Why am I wasting my time? Do preliminary research to the people who you're pitching to.
Aha, there's the research, right?
Some publishers have a particular kind of game that they are interested in. They're interested in horror games, or they're interested in like 8-bit games, or they're interested in arty games. There's a whole, and some publishers are also interested in having a broad spread of different titles. So if they're already doing a horror game, they're probably not interested in your game. So do some preliminary research to find out what it is that people are interested in, so you don't wind up pitching them something for the wrong platform, the wrong genre, something that already goes against something that they've announced. Gone Home already exists. And this is from a couple of years ago, right after Gone Home came out. It seemed like every other pitch we got was going to be, hey, we're going to do a new version of Gone Home, without any way to distinguish what it was that was at all different about it. So again, along with the idea that there's being technological hotness that people are chasing after, there are also hot games that come out. So in addition to Gone Home existing, so does Minecraft. If you pitch a Minecraft clone, okay, how is this different from from Minecraft? How are you taking something that already exists a different direction? Because if you just say you're going to remake your version of something that's already successful, then the immediate answer is, well, why would somebody buy this instead of what already exists? It's already putting you behind in terms of convincing people that your game is worthwhile to make.
Candy Crush. I can't imagine how many different versions of Candy Crush there are out there. And really, Candy Crush is just Tetris.
Or like Match 3. Match
Yeah.
3 games.
All those, exactly the same game.
This also, it wasn't Marvel, it was a completely different license, but somebody actually came to us and they had this whole game pitch built based around
Called My Morphing Life. So you guys can maybe go out and go check it out if it's still available. And he had to get special permission from Saban and from the people that held the license for the Power Rangers, because it wasn't necessarily a Power Ranger game, but he was pulling on the fact that he was a Power Ranger, and he was using his success in that genre to attract people to this game. And the game wasn't about Power Rangers. It was a completely different storyline. But the thing would be that the guy, he would turn into, like, he somehow did something with it was like an alien invasion. Well, at least the last time I saw it was an alien invasion story. He's at his dojo. Somebody, one of his students, something happens. He goes out. He has to fight. Or there's a bunch of people that come in.
See, Professor, I found
Yeah.
it, and I had to pay $2.99 to get the game.
Yeah, I mean it's for sale.
Oh.
I didn't say it was free. And I'm not actually involved in that at all at this point. I just provided music for it at the very beginning, so I don't even know if my company's stuff is in there and whether they went with somebody else's music at this point. But I was involved with the project, and it is there. It exists. And you can see that he's trying to draw in on the fact that there's this intellectual license called Power Rangers, and obviously the Power Rangers morph. That's the actual word that they use. So he couldn't use the word morph. He had to say morphing, and he couldn't say anything about Power Rangers. And I think he turns into some kind of like cat creature or like a werewolf or something, some kind of weird thing. But anyways, that's the game, and that's the way it's promoted. But he was able to get clearance for using the word morphin, and he actually had to get clearance for using, I don't think he had to get clearance for using his own name, but he had to let Saban and them know that he was working on an intellectual property and that it was going to be his and not theirs, but he was drawing upon the fact that his fame comes from their franchise, right? So it was very weird as far as like how he had to go around. Now he obviously has a very good relationship with Mr. Saban. I think the guy who owns Saban Entertainment is actually he's a Middle Eastern dude, so his last name is Saban. But there you go. So yeah, you don't want to work on a property unless you have clearance. If you but sort of a cool story on that.
This was big when free-to-play was the first new thing, the big new thing. We would get pitches that consisted almost entirely of somebody describing their new monetization plan. And again, nobody buys a game for a monetization plan. The details of the monetization plan may be really interesting once you get into development. If somebody's interested in your pitch, they may say, hey, this is really, really cool. Can you tell us more about how you're going to make money off of it? But going into what your pricing tiers are, if you have some unique way that you're going to sell in-game goods, that's a relatively minor part of selling somebody on the idea of your game. And a lot of that will fluctuate during development. It's worthwhile to say up front, oh yeah, we're planning on free-to-play, we're planning on in-app purchases. A basic idea of what the monetization plan is going to be affects what how you think if the game is feasible or not, but actually going into detail of how the system is going to work usually doesn't belong in a pitch.
So again, that was just over-explaining a key feature, right? So don't over-explain key features.
Make the game, then figure out what your pricing tiers are. Don't start from the principle that you build out your whole monetization plan in advance. This is a huge one. You have no idea how much money you need to make this thing. Or this is the same thing, or how many people, or how much time. Never go into pitch without an idea of what your scope is going to be. A common question you'll be asked is, how many hours of gameplay does this have? How many levels? How many lines of dialogue? Whenever I was taking pitches, I always had was running a calculation in my head of how much money this game is going to cost to make. And because that's where all the feasibility comes down to. It's like, can we afford to pay money to actually pay for this thing? And if you have no idea how big your game is, or how many people it's going to take to make, how many months you're going to run, it makes it impossible to assess the feasibility of this game as a project. You could have a game that's really, really, really amazing, but if you don't know what it actually takes to build it, that suggests that you're never going to be able to execute on it. Related to this is that you come in and...
I think that's a great point. You need to know how many levels are in your game. You need to know how long it's going to take to play the game. You need to know how big the levels are going to be, how many materials. That will tell you how many people you need to work on the game and how much time it's going to take to be able to make that. If you have a game that's got 100 levels and it takes your team a week to to make a level, well, that means production is going to take you over 100 weeks, which is 2 years. So you've got a production schedule of 2 years to be able to make that game. Whereas if you said, well, the game only has 10 levels and our production team can do a level a week, then it's 10 weeks to make the game. We're talking about a schedule that's like 3 weeks long, but you have data points, right? So knowing things like how many levels, how complex the levels, how much gameplay there's going to be in the levels. You can also add levels, you can add complexity things like once you beat the game the first time, it unlocks, and now you have the ability to play the level again, but with an additional power that you didn't have before, or with unlimited ammo, and so you can go back and just have fun spraying everything up, or, and not having to play the game the way that it was intended to, or the first way, which is, what led you to that. So having an idea of what it actually takes to make a game. Right now we don't, because we're still learning, but definitely things that you should think about.
You don't have a team. You don't have anybody beside yourself. You don't need to have your complete team in place. A lot of times when you're pitching, it's because you want the money to be able to hire people. But you at least need to have a roadmap for how you are going to hire people, and at least have an idea of who the leads are going to be. If you have 1 or 2 people who you would like to hire, you want to give the person that you're pitching to the idea that there is going to be a body of people who are capable of executing on this idea, and not simply it's a pipe dream that you have that you're hoping to make without any resources to execute on it.
Okay, so for us, what that's going to be is when each one of the members in our pitch comes out and talks about what their role is going to be. In this situation, you are going to have your team assembled, right? So Avengers assemble. And they're going to be there, and they're going to have their information that they're going to give their presentation. So making them capable, explaining what their skill set is. So it's, like I said, mini sort of like a resume, right? You're sort of going up there because you have to explain who you are and what your skills are, and why I should care, like he says, right? Who you are, what makes you unique, and what skills can you bring to the table. So if I was, let's say, the programmer in a team, and let's say I'd never programmed before, right? So maybe I'll go, hey, my name is blah blah blah. I have actually worked before. I've run social media so I've dealt with web, and I've dealt with this, and so you may give some other experience that might give us the impression that you understand what's going on, or you may say I'm new to this, so you relate the information. Hey, this is my first time. I don't know exactly, but I am a hard worker. I do have this skill, and I think that those are going to benefit this project a lot, because I'll be able to bring my my due diligence or my love for X, Y, and Z, and try to really hardcore make that part of this project, right? So so knowing your crew, having a crew, knowing what they're capable of, and in the presentation, letting people know that if you have a certification in something, like maybe I'm applying for a job and I have a certification in Ableton, or I have a certification in Pro Tools, or I have a certification in a program, or I've got degrees in a program. Obviously, again, we're in school. This is a mock setup, so we may not have lots of things to fill those holes, but maybe you're the manager for the group and you've actually been a manager at some other location for some other business. You can bring that experience in. If maybe you've never done art design for a video game, but you did win an award for art in high school or in college or somewhere else, you can bring that information in, and at least that lets me know, oh, hey, person's doing good enough to somebody else has recognized their work or whatever, and that. So even if it seems like information that doesn't make sense for the game or what you're doing specifically, for example, one of the things that I love to point out when people look at my resume, they go, oh my goodness, you worked for a single place for over, because the jewelry store I worked for 20 years. So 20 years? Yeah, 20 years. That, for somebody who's hiring, they go, well, this person definitely can stick around. You know what I mean? So regardless of what happens with the business, regardless of the ups and downs that happens with the business, this person, if he likes us, is willing to stick around. And so that's like an unintentional consequence of bringing that piece of information out, even though it had nothing to do with the fact that I might be auditioning for a video game company, but they see that I worked at one location, and that all my jobs are like that. I either work for them very quick and figure out I don't like that place, or I stay there for a very long time. HCC I've worked for I think it's over 11 years, 12 years. Guitar Center I've worked since 98 on and off. So I've been there. When I tell people my employee number, they can't believe it because I have several zeros at the beginning of my employee number. And usually people that have been there for only like senior management has numbers like I do as far as like my employee number there. So when they hear my number, they're like, whoa. And it changes their mind, they're like, whoa. But anyways, yeah. So back to this dude.
When you're specifying what sort of stuff it is that how much you need and how this game is going to have a roadmap to success, make sure your business plan that you're presenting is realistic. If you're saying that you're going to sell as much as World of Warcraft, that's not going to happen. Your game is going to fail. And so if you need to have those sort of sales for your game to make financial sense, then your business plan makes no sense. So when you're putting together what your business plan in, make sure that it's not based on outliers. If you're saying, hey, here's the scope of our game, here's how much money we expect to make, pick a middle of the road title, one that's like a moderate success. I mean, everybody assumes the game is probably going to succeed a little. People tend to go into these things with a sense of optimism, but don't have a business plan that's based upon some sort of wildly unrealistic, outrageous sense of success. Here's another one. You seem like you'd be a huge pain in the ass to work with.
Huh.
I actually sat in pitches where afterwards we would sit and talk and say, man, that was a really great game idea, but that guy was a huge asshole. And this is more important than you think because a publisher-developer relationship is a relationship. It's ongoing. I mean, at a minimum, you're going to be working together for 6 months. Quite often, it can be 18 months, 2 years, 3 years if things go wrong. Things get stressful. There's a lot of money involved. People get nervous. If you're not able to be friendly and agreeable in a pitch meeting, what are you going to be like when you're sleep deprived and you're a week out from alpha and nothing works? So remember that your pitch is also an addition. It is making you, you're showing to the person you're pitching to what sort of person you're going to be like to work with. Are you going to be a colleague that they actually want to be involved with? Number 24, you expect me to know off the bat who you are. There are a lot of games out there and there are a lot of game developers. And I may not have played your previous games. Start off giving me a little bit of background. Tell me, what you've worked on before. Don't assume and don't be offended in particular if I haven't played your game before, even if it was well received. There's a lot of stuff out there. Number 25, you get annoyed if I ask you questions. And this is hard sometimes because if you've pitched and if you've rehearsed your pitch really well and you know exactly what you're going to say and you have your whole thing scripted and down, and then somebody like 5 minutes in raises their hand and asks you a question you're going to answer later on. It's really, really annoying. But if somebody is asking you questions while you're pitching, it means they're interested in your game. And it means that they want to know more. And so try to roll with the flow of how the pitch goes. If it takes you off script, go off script. You're not being judged on how well you stick to script. It's how well you convey what needs to be conveyed for the game. This is a weird one. We're watching the pitch on your phone. It's really hard to look at a PowerPoint if it's like this big. And so be sure you have the adequate technology to pitch what you're pitching. Even if you're pitching a phone game, it is often worthwhile to show stuff on a tablet to the person you're pitching to. So please bring a laptop or a tablet or a laptop to your pitch.
So this goes back to my point about knowing what kind of equipment they have, how many plugs are going to be in the room, how much power you've got, what do you need to be able to give the presentation, right?
Number 27, you bought a laptop, but you didn't bring headphones. I was talking to somebody, I no longer take pictures because I'm freelance, but somebody showed me their game a couple of days ago, and I thanked him because we were in a really noisy place and he had headphones. If sound is at all important to your game, if it means anything, assume you're going to be pitching in the noisiest bar at GDC, because a lot of times that's what happens. And actually, please bring headphones, because if you hand me your earbuds, I don't want to put them in my ears.
I won't even touch your earbuds. I'll look at you in disgust. I'll be like, really? He'll be like, no, just hold it up to your. I'll be like, no, sorry. I work with my ears. My job is my ears. I'm not going to put your nasty wax-covered earbuds in my ears. So headphones at the very minimum. Good investment.
Number 28, this only happened once. You show up hungover or drunk or high. Please don't do this. Hungover is probably the most common one, but I've seen the others. And it really, my immediate response is, if you're not taking this seriously, then why am I taking this seriously? And it also suggests that, you know, if you're not able to pull it together for a half-hour pitch, what is it going to be like over the entire development? I've gotten the 5-minute warning, but fortunately I only have 2 more. Don't trash other companies. People will say, oh yeah, our last publisher was really awful, or we really hated them, or we don't want to make a game like this other game because it's crap, or don't do this, don't trash other people. There's ways to talk about why your game is great, or why you're a great team without talking about negative things about other people in the industry. Because again, development really is very stressful, and what will run through the publisher's mind is, how are they going to talk about us when they're making a game for us? And finally,
Not only to that, but I will also add, that's funny. I will also add that it's a small business. You know, these people know each other. They go to NAMM. They all show up for the same conferences. They all recognize each other. They've worked in companies together, right? So you sit there and you talk trash about some other company, and the person that you're talking trash to that might be their best friend who just happens to work for another company. They're like, really? Wow. And also to the point which he just said, which is, you know, if this is what they're saying about other people, imagine what they're going to say about us. So yeah, don't ever be negative.
Never burn a
make sure you
bridge.
take a shower.
Basically.
Yeah, definitely.
I shouldn't have to tell people this, and I know it's hard at GDC, you're walking around a lot, but I've tried it not to hold it against people, but yeah. and this goes into the, like, if you're doing a VR demonstration, please wipe off the faceplate before you give it to me to put on, or don't give me your earbuds. Be mindful of the fact that we're talking and interacting with a lot of people, and it's a small thing, but it goes a long way to feeling like you respect the person you're pitching to. So just take a shower. This is sort of the reason why I'm having you guys dress up for the pitch, so then that way you actually have a chance to get into semi-formal, formal, business casual type dress, to try it out, see how it works, and to the point of not smelling terrible. I actually have, I think Axe body spray is a great thing to have. It's something that you can spray on yourself really quick. So if you do get musty, or your deodorant for whatever reason starts to fail, you can hit yourself up with something like that. It'll immediately make you smell a lot better. And it's much more pleasant to be around people that smell nice than it is to be around people that smell like body odor. Because at that point, you have to start thinking, what else are they not taking care of? You know what I mean? Like, are they so consumed or so unable to take care of the minimum thing, which is, you know, being presentable and smelling acceptable in front of other people, that are they not going to be able to, you know, do what we need to for the game, because, you know, this sort of shows their work ethic, right? If they can't take care of themselves, how are they going to be able to take care of the project, right? So, so yeah, so how you look, again, I've belabored that point already.
I wouldn't buy a hot dog from a hobo. And definitely if you smell bad, try to get that fixed. Try to figure out where that's coming from.
A couple of positive things at the end, because that was a whole lot of negativity.
Also, don't eat a bunch of beans the night before. You know.
Be enthusiastic. Be excited about your game. You're the person who's the most excited about your game. And if you're not excited about your game, then who is going to be? You know, show that enthusiasm while you're pitching. Be upfront and honest. If you're an inexperienced team, be sure to say that. You know, I mean, you're not going to be able to fool most people you're pitching to. You're not going to be able to snow them. They've seen things many, many times. You know, be upfront with what's hard about your development. Be upfront about like what your challenges are, what your risks are. That makes it seem like you know what you're doing when you're upfront about the problems you face. Sell your hook really, really hard. What is it about your game that makes it original and unique and different? Because that's the thing that will make it sell. And above all, know your scope backwards and forwards. Know how much it's going to cost, how many levels, how many hours, how many characters, how much dialogue. You don't need to have created all these things. You need to know how many of each one of these things you're planning to have in your finished game. And I have like 3 minutes, so thank you very much.
Okay, so he goes on to answer a couple of questions. I'll pause it there. You guys can watch that part of the video later. But a lot of really good points, right? Some of them, a lot of them were belaboring the business stuff that we're talking about, right? What is your game? Everything in your game should be about how to sell it, right? We think that this group of people are going to really enjoy this game. Here's a couple of key features which is going to make our game unique. And think about it. Every time you've been in any situation, because I think everybody's gone in maybe at least once to go buy a car or to go buy a nice television set or to go buy something, that there are a lot of options for that, for buying for your same dollars in that group. And it's a high dollar thing. So it's they have to use techniques to try to get you to purchase that, right? So anytime you've walked into any store like a Guitar Center or a Best Buy and they have products and salespeople, what those people are doing all day long is figuring out how they're going to best present and sell, if they're good salespeople. If they're just clerks, it's different. Oh, you want that? Yeah, there's the thing. It's do you want the extended warranty with that? They're not selling you anything. They don't know their product. They're not excited about it. And you can feel the difference. That's why people go to stores where they know, for example, I won't buy a computer for anywhere else other than Micro Center because the staff I know personally have to take a test and pass certain computing literacy before they're actually able to work there if they're going to be out on the sales floor. So they actually have to prove that they know what the products are, the differences between X, Y, and Z, what this means, what that means, you know, all the differences. So anyways, the other points would be prepared, be excited, know your product, know who you're selling to, right? I think he started off the talk with the two important things. Is the game feasible, and can the team, or is the game sellable, and can the team in front of me actually make it, right? So good stuff. All right, let's escape here. Let's go back. And let's see what time it is. It's 2:30. Okay, so we will leave for next Monday these documents right here. If you want this video to watch, maybe you guys can do this for homework. And I don't think it's that long of a video. Basically, it's a lot of the same information that we've seen synthesized into a format that allows you to sort of organize all the different pieces. And let's just look at the document real quick. This document is the document. So basically, they go through, they ask you a list of questions, you answer those questions, and by answering those questions, you have a way to be able to put your verbal pitch together, right? If the checklist on the videos that we saw for the elevator pitch sort of gave us the questions that we needed to be answered for the elevator pitch, this document would do the same thing, but for the bigger pitch, right? We'll cover this information on Monday when I see you guys, I guess on the 4th, which remember, this will be, if nothing changes, this will be the last time we're online. We will be meeting next Monday in class in room C124, if I'm not mistaken. It's either 121 or 124. I'll have the door open, so, oh, that's right, you guys don't know what I look like. You'll
Is
hear
that
my,
upstairs or downstairs?
it's downstairs. Yeah, because
Most of the game stuff downstairs.
if from well, okay, so the answer to that question is it should be. I don't know because I haven't been there in a while. But I do know that theoretically we have rooms that we have control of that have been allocated for our program, and those rooms are all on the first floor because that building has 2 floors. So the fact that the first number is C121, that means it's on the first floor. If it was a 2 number, then it would have been on the second floor.
I actually do know what you look like. I just looked up on the Learning Life.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Well, you have a very old picture of me. I have much less hair and much more beard than that picture. I guarantee you. And gray hair now, because that picture was taken when I was still young and beautiful.
Maybe you'll discuss this next week. On Wednesday.
Sure.
How are we gonna transfer our already done Unreal Engine stuff to school?
The external hard drive, right?
So yeah, that would be my first response would be an external hard drive. So if you have a laptop, if your laptop is portable or your computer is portable, then you should just bring your laptop, put that in your backpack, and bring that, and you can set up your laptop next to the computer that's available for you at school, and you can use both. And then the other answer would be if you have a desktop, then you would need to transfer your project to an external hard drive, and then bring that external hard drive to school, and then we'll see what kind of issues you have as far as making sure that it works with whatever version of the software. Because I don't even know that. I'll try to walk in a little bit earlier on October the 4th, and I just don't know if I'll have access to the class because there may be another class in there before me. I don't know because I don't know what the schedule for the rooms are yet. As far as who's before and who's after, but there could have been a 9 o'clock class which would have met for 3 hours, which would be ending at about the time that we'd be coming in at 12. So I know generally there's 15 minutes of class time that's available. So if one class ends at something 30, the next class usually will open up at the 12 o'clock slot after that. Now, I've seen that not happen. I've seen classes open up immediately after. Generally, there's a allotted amount of time to clean everything up, get the other class out before the next class comes in, but that doesn't always work that way. So, not knowing how early I can get... Yeah.
Do you know how much space we'll actually have on the desks?
You do have enough space because remember we originally were able to hold about 24 students, and now because of the COVID restrictions we can only hold 18. Each one of the computers normally would have been set to 2 computers to like a 6-foot table, and you would have shared that 6-foot table between you and one other student who was on the other computer.
All right, so I guess we have a good amount of space.
Yeah, I would say.
I'm not worried about COVID for that reason.
Oh, no. I'm just explaining that's the reason why we have less students. So you should have now more space, is what I meant by that. So yeah, you should have enough space to be able to put a laptop and have that sitting next to the computer with the monitor there in front of you. Okay, so, right. So I will try to get into class as early as I can to figure out what version of the software we're using, but it won't help anybody if they're bringing that the first time or their laptop or whatever. If it's on your laptop, it doesn't matter because you have whatever version is on your laptop, but if you're going desktop to desktop, then you are going to want to make sure that your program, the one that you have at home, matches what we have at school, so then that way when you plug in your hard drive, it'll work at whatever. Now, the other thing also to remember with that is that you will have to bring, well, no, that would be in your content folder. So every time you download a pack, it goes into your content folder. So that shouldn't be it shouldn't be an issue. If you're transferring the entire project, then you would be putting on the hard drive the content folder as well. So that should all go with it. So that shouldn't be an issue as far as missing media. But yeah, those would be the 2 things that you'd have. Okay, so let's see. When we get back on Wednesday, that'll be next Wednesday will be our last online class. Again, if nothing changes and the world is still here, that would be the 29th. So what we'll do on the 29th is we will finish up project 5. I think what we did last time was we worked on the missile, or not the missile. We worked on the I believe it
Floating
was these.
box.
Yeah, well, that's the very technical way of saying it. But yeah, our stationary mine was the word I was looking for. So this guy right here. So I've actually made 2. I actually went through and I was sort of like dressing up my thing while I was waiting for you guys this morning. So I set up the 5 areas that I needed for project 5, which shows the mobility, the physics, where all the different settings are for the boxes, right? And then the other thing I would have done would have been set up an area for the sort of like a showcase area for the stationary mine, and then we'll end up doing something like this, which is my homing missile. And what's actually really cool is I actually made that. That's let's see. So this didn't start off. You can see there's a cone, there's a fin, there's another fin, there's the fins in the front, the capsule that the thing is in, and then the flame on the back is actually a particle system for a fire, for like a torch that I stretched out. And then all of that should end up doing something like that. It's moving a little slow, right? And it's probably oversized for the size of my character. Although if it had come off of an airplane, it'd probably be the right size for like a Tomahawk missile or one of those things. But in this game, it's probably oversized, and it probably needs to move a little bit faster. But so that'll be the end of Lab 5. We'll be showing us how to do the homing missile. And then we'll go into Lab 6, which is navigational meshes. Now, what that is, just to give you a very quick, if I hit escape real quick, you see that green area that's on the floor? That's actually the navigational mesh, and there are different ways to set that up in the game. And just to give you an idea, let's push play one more time. If I walk around the missile, notice that the missile doesn't see me because I'm not in that green area. As soon as I jump into that green area, the missile moves, right? So we'll be setting up blueprints with different AIs that'll move missiles based off of where you are, what green box you're in, and how that missile sees you. So that'll be Lab 6. That'll be navigational meshes, which we should be able to get into because we're really just making the homing missile is one thing, and then probably the second half of the class we'll be talking Lab 6, which is the navigational meshes. So that'll be what we do on Wednesday's class. So again, the other thing that I wanted to do today but that we didn't get enough time to do was I wanted to go around the room and I wanted to see where people were in their groups on their projects. At this point, you have almost all the information that you need to be able to complete the project, right? When we look at the information that I've provided here, we see what the project actually is and what you're expected to do, which is this document, right? Which we went over first when we introduced it, and also it has in there the grading rubrics and how you're going to be graded for. And we explained all that. Then we said this is what the game industry is. So we set up what the roles are. You have a publisher, you have a developer, the different people that you would see as far as the team leaders, the level designers, the artists, the programmers, and all that. Then we saw what a game proposal was, which was a financial, basically a document that does everything from explain what your game is, to explain how the game is going to be made, to also being a brochure of sorts when you go into a formal presentation to ask for money from a publisher. And then we saw today the flip side of that. If the game proposal is the written documentation, then the pitch and the elevator pitch and the formal pitch would be the verbal accompaniment to that document, right? What you're going to say to convince somebody in a meeting to go with your project, to greenlight your project. From there, we saw the 2 documents that we need to create to be able to set up the questions or the scenarios that we need for this documentation, your competitive analysis and your SWOT analysis. So the competitive analysis, you were supposed to, as a group, pick 8 companies, two per individual in your group. If your group is smaller because somebody's not showing up, then it'll be 6, 2 per person. And then you would ask a series of questions that maybe as a group you have decided that you want to know the answers for. So in your group, you would come up with a list of companies. Maybe you do that research together online. Maybe you provide it as homework for your group leaders, homework for your group, to come up with 2 companies that they can find that are small companies that are similar in nature to the size of the companies that we're dealing with, or to be no more, not a major label. You know, we looked online, we saw inside the brain fart, Epic Games Launcher, games that, you know, when we clicked on it, we could see where their social media pages were, how big the company was, what the key individuals were, how they were presenting their information, their visual styles. All that was available by finding, and then, like I said, you would make a spreadsheet. You'd find out a bunch of questions that you want to know the answers to. And then from how many titles have they worked on, how many projects do they have, how much are they charging for their projects, how big is their team, where is their team located, what does their team specialize, what services do they provide, how long does it take them to make a game, where do they sell their game, where is their game playable from, and that gives you an idea of what's going on in the market, right? And so those you would then use to create your game proposal and your verbal pitches from. From there, we saw we talked about what a game is, what we're looking for. Let me see. We gave examples of right here. So game concept examples, one from a big company, a couple from some smaller companies, some student examples. And then we watched a couple of videos that sort of gave us more insight into the roles of the individuals on the team. We have not watched, I guess next Monday we'll watch this together in class, the pre-production problem and the other one, which is the game designer, in addition to that. Now you guys can watch that on your own because the video links are there. They're short videos, 5-10 minutes a piece, so you can watch them, but we will cover them in class and I'll make some points over them. And then we see what an elevator pitch is, right? So the information that we need, how to put an elevator pitch together, what essential things need to be part of that pitch. I would go back, watch the videos, copy those bullet points at the end of the video, right? What's your name? What do you do? What makes you unique? What's your call to action? What do you want the people to do? And then a closing, all those sorts of things. Make sure that you hit those points in your elevator pitch for your game. Then we saw another video that sort of gave us pitfalls of what not to do in a game proposal. So again, go back and watch that together as a group. Make sure that once you have your pitch together, maybe that's when you go back and you watch this video and you say, are we doing any of the things that this dude said not to do? Right? Where are we to avoid that? And then when we come back next Monday, the following Monday, which should be the 4th, which will be in class, we'll go over this. But basically this one right here, if what this is for the elevator pitch, this would be for the big for the formal pitch, right? For the one where all of y'all are going to be participating, every member of your group on that day. Okay, so that gives us a where we are, where we're going, gives us a recap of what we did so far for the game, for the group projects. At this point, I don't have any new information to give you. What I would recommend is if you don't have anything else that you're doing within the next 30 minutes to an hour, that you break up into your individual groups. Everybody go inside, group leader, go start a Zoom call, bring all your members in. All this information is fresh right now. We just finished talking about it. And then start trying to get the paper document finished. Make sure, group leaders, that everybody at least at this point has a company that they've been assigned, that they're going to do research. Put the questions together that you guys want to ask in your research. Maybe you're doing horror games. You want to know how many, what makes a good horror game. Maybe you start asking questions like, how often does an enemy character show up? How are they using sound inside the game? Is there creepy background music? Is there no music? Is it like Silent Hill where it's just atmospheric sound effects until you get to certain places? How do you introduce an enemy character? What is that enemy character going to be doing? By doing research, right? So you ask questions not only about the company, but also maybe about the game and how they've designed it and what key features are in there that make that game special, that make it fun to play. And so that's what I would recommend. Now, for those that want, I'll be here for a couple more minutes to answer individual questions if you'd like. I do, again, have Guitar Center later on this afternoon, so I do need to cut it short. So probably 3:30, I'll need to start cutting out and getting ready for that. So if you don't have any questions at this moment, you're free to go. Wednesday we'll come back. We'll finish Lab 5, Lab 5, and start talking Lab 6. And then next Monday is in person, unless otherwise told. We'll be meeting in class, room C121 or C124, I forget. It's one of those two. They'd be right next to each other. So first floor, it's in the back left-hand side of the building. And if you walk in the front and you ask them where's C124 gaming, or where's the gaming department, somebody will tell you, walk this way, walk that way. But we're in the back left-hand side of the building if you walk in through the front. Yeah, too much smell is also a problem. Some people are allergic to overabundant smell. Anyways, I just read a comment that popped up. So that's where I'll leave it. Group leaders, I would recommend setting up a meeting now, trying to get your groups to their meeting. And if not, you're welcome to ask me questions, and I will see you guys for those that are leaving on Wednesday.
Thanks, Professor.
You're welcome. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'll be happy to answer them.
Have a nice
But
day, Professor.
Take care. But I would strongly recommend getting into groups.
That's what we're gonna try to do now.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Professor, I also have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, how do you add blueprints to create the hills and the lakes?
Okay, so that's not a blueprint. What that is a landscape, and that landscape
Okay.
comes from your modes. So you actually click in mode, and one of the options is landscape, and then if you don't have a landscape yet, obviously you'll have to create one first. Once the landscape has been created, then you use the sculpting tools that are also available under modes in landscape on another tab. It's like the next tab over, and that tab says sculpt, and then the next tab over is called paint, and that's how you're going to paint the landscape. So the landscape is not something that we're going to add a blueprint for, or even is an object that is associated as a character in the game, right? It's not in there as an actor. It's in there as the landscape.
As it has the environmental
yeah.
aspect.
Well, yeah, I mean, the point is that they expect the landscape is something that reacts very differently as far as an element inside the game, and the way that you need to interact with it to be able to make it look realistic. So that you see up there where you have modes,
Yeah, that says mode.
then you
Yes.
have
Okay.
then you're in landscape mode, right? We pick landscape, and then in there you have manage, new, and you can see that it wants to set up a new one. Let me zoom out far.
Okay.
And if I go to new, this is what a landscape is this green grid that you are then going to tell it what you're looking for. And remember that if you have a slow computer, you don't want an ultra big landscape because that's going to chew up a lot more processing power. So you may end up going with a
See what I'll
smaller.
just do if I'm in person, I'll just use my external hard disk drive, and it depends on the version of Unreal that's on the school's computer. I'll just have to.
Well, if you've already started working, so the question there is, if I'm using X version of Ableton, if I'm using X version of Unreal, and I get to school and it has a different version of Unreal, well then what we would do in that situation is we would take your content folder and we would export it. You could drag your content folder into a new project that is of the project version that the school's computers are in. So I would have, let's say you're in 4.5 at home or on your computer, and the school is using 4.6. You get to school, you realize that, you start a new project, 4.6, and then that is sitting on your computer as a project file, and then you drag all the stuff from 4.5 into 4.6. And then you open up 4.6 again and it should be there. The other thing you may also be able to do is save backwards. So if you're in a newer version of Unreal, you may be able to save backwards, like things are usually backwards compatible, but not forwards compatible. So if you end up being on 4.26, and we get to school and we realize everything's 4.25, then you can still do the first version of what I talked about just moving your content file into the other prepared document or the other project file with the proper version, or you may be able to do a file save as and then go backwards. So a lot of that would be file, there may be a save all, choose files, connect, open assets, save all levels. Let's see. It may be here in the packaging of the product. So normally this would be build configuration, develop. Normally this is where we go to export, but there may be something there that also allows us to be able to save backwards. Choose files to save, connect to source, save current
Oh no.
as, and yeah, I'm not seeing a version option there. That's just saving it as another place.
There we go.
So yeah, I'm sure that there may be also warnings and all sorts of stuff that pop up because maybe you're using a feature that's available in 4.26 that's not available in another one. That's why I think it's sometimes just easier to bring your levels in, right, to find where your level map is and find all the content associated with that level map and export that level map and then re-import that map into the newer version. Some stuff will work, some stuff won't, but you're not starting from zero. So I'm not guaranteeing that the process will be 100%, that you'll be able to just very easily move from one to the other. But you may be, let's say you get half or 3/4 of the stuff to work and then you only have to fix 1/4 of the stuff in real time once you've made the move.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions?
No, I don't have any questions, but I'm just gonna be on my Discord with my group, just
Sure,
like,
absolutely.
see if they have anything laid down
There you go.
and whatsoever, and deal with that Achilles heel because someone is actually being an Achilles heel on my group.
Oh, well, that doesn't sound fun. Sounds like
Yeah.
one of those personality things that guy was talking about in the 30 things I don't like about your game pitch. But you know, the best thing to do in a situation like that is to just like they said, be cordial, be respectful, try not to add any more attention to the problem, and
No,
at that
no,
point
no.
try to, you know, find a way to disengage or disinflate the situation so it doesn't become an issue. Now, if it is an issue and you do need to talk to me about it in private, please send me a message or a
I'll send you
mail
an email.
through. Okay, send me an email through HCC, and then that way through the Canvas system. You know where to do that, right?
Yeah, it's through the Canvas. If not,
Yeah.
I'll
So
just
if
go,
you,
I'll just go through my Outlook since my student email is linked to Outlook, so I'll just do that.
yeah, so you would do something like that here. You can actually do it through Canvas because this is where I check all the time. So if it sends it here, this is where I would find it. If you're sending it to my HCC teacher like Martin.hcc something mail, I may or may not see that because I don't go through that all the time. But if you create your email here, this is where I look for my class, any information that's coming in from my class. And it's actually really simple to use. You just go up to that little guy up there. You go select the course. Our course happens to be this one. And then from there you'd go to 2. There's a list. You go to the teachers that are available only for that class. I'm the only person there. So you do that. You write in whatever subject, and then you write the email that you need and hit send. So it's a very streamlined way of finding me very quickly without having to look very hard. You just class, there I am as the teacher, only one subject matter, and then write me the email. And that way I'll see it because I check this I think on a daily basis more or less.
Yeah, and also, Professor.
Sure.
Also experiencing some recent crashes, but I'll just send you the email about that too as well.
Have you been able to get anywhere on that? Is it
I
working
was
better
able to get
or?
somewhere because I was able to report it to Unreal.
Okay. Have they written any type of response, or have you just gotten the generic, this is a automated response, please don't reply?
I got an email from them.
Oh, okay, cool. So they know that it's an issue. Did
Mhm.
they say anything in specific? I'm just interested because if you...
They're saying that they're rectifying the situation, but if it persists, they're going to give me a DFID confirmation number and contact the customer service.
Okay,
And I'll just provide them that ticket number. So
got
that way
it.
from there, they can see if they can be able to rectify it.
Okay. Yeah, that's the way a lot of that stuff works. You present them a problem, then they create a ticket, and then your problem is associated with that ticket, so that there's a way then to be able to within the company know what problem they're working on because it's all associated with that one ticket number. Yeah, I've seen that a lot. But yeah, so hopefully they can find out some type of solution, and if there's a lot of people that are having your kind of problem, well then maybe that's, once they identify a problem, they bring it to their techs and they say, hey, XYZ person is having a problem with ABC. Can you guys figure out a solution for us? And if they do, then they'll probably create another update with the fix in it. Or they might find a solution for you and make a video and then send you a link to a document that shows you how to fix it.
Yeah.
So hopefully, fingers crossed. If not, next week we'll be in class. And are you on a laptop or a desktop now?
I'm on a laptop, and I'm also going through the instructions of how to very well use Unreal Engine on
Okay.
the website. That's really quite helpful too as well.
Okay, fantastic. Well, definitely, if you're having the problem with the crashing on the laptop, well, then if you bring it in next week, then we'll be able to look at it together, and then I'll have a
Yeah.
better idea as to what I think. I'll be able to put in my 2 cents. How about that?
Yeah. Mhm.
All right,
Oh,
cool.
Yes.
Any other questions? Anybody at all of the people that are left? Y'all shall all be going to your meetings.
I think I should be going to my meeting too because I'm checking my Discord on my phone to make sure that is anybody there present waiting on me, or I don't know.
Let me check the chat.
Yeah, let me check my Discord 'cause that's where we usually have our.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, so I'm not hearing any new questions. I'm going to assume that most everybody has no questions.
I don't have any other questions.
So if
I do, I'll just email you.
yeah, absolutely. Send me an email with what you think the issue is with your group, and I'll try to address that for you. And we'll see where we move on that. And if nobody has any other questions, then I'll see you guys on Wednesday, and we'll jump back into Unreal.
I have just one thing to say, Professor.
Sure.
We have a teammate that's just not involved anymore. Ivan.
Okay.
He's not in our Discord. He's not involved at all.
So
He just
they're
joined and left.
right, and there may be some students that have left because of financial issues. I'm not
Well,
at
you're still
liberty
in the
to,
class every day.
you know, and he may still have access to Canvas. I can't. I don't know. I would have to send me an email, describe the situation, and then that way I have more information. So then that way when I contact the student, I can see what's going on.
Okay.
But
I will let you know.
yeah, please write me an email, and that'll be the way I can handle that.
All right. Thanks, Professor.
You got it. Cool. Any other questions?
Professor.
Sure.
Yes, sir. I was trying to. I was wondering, how do you do that trick again when you can see around all the boxes again for the house?
Sure. So what that is basically is it's two hollow boxes, and when you make one of them invisible, what it does is the inside of that box is touching the outside wall of the smaller box that's inside. So when you make one unvisible, right, when you make it not visible from the world outliner, it takes the outside mesh with it because it's inside of that mesh. It makes it also invisible. So here, let me zoom in down here. Let's do that. And let's dismiss some of these error messages. Ooh, too fast. Let's slow this down a bit. And let's also get into the select mode. Alright, so I'm going to select the outside box, or the one on the outside. And you see how it's up there in the world outliner? If I
Yes, sir.
if I make that not visible, what's actually happening is that inside box has the inside panel, and it also had a panel on the outside, but that panel on the outside, you can see it. See how it's the yellow outline is in between the space for the wall that we're not seeing, and because of that, it's taking that out with it. So I'm making the outside box not visible. And then as I move around, what it does is it shows me what's going on inside, which is a really, really cool effect. So the short and skinny of that is I go and I grab a geometry, I put that on the floor. That geometry I then make a copy of. Well, first actually, before I make it, I would have to make it hollow, right? And see how the wall thickness is 10, right? So the
Yes, sir.
space between the inside and the outside wall is 10, right? So now I'm going to make another box. So I'm going to take that same box, I'm going to do Control W. So now I have a box sitting inside of a box. They're both exactly the same. So if I want this box's walls, which are hollow at 10, to be just big enough to catch the inside but not the outside, right? I probably want to make the wall thickness on this, let's say 15. And then, well, no, I'm sorry. I'm gonna leave the wall thickness the same, and I'm gonna measure this up by 5, right? So if I have 10 in the wall, I need the outside one to be half of that, so that the wall sits inside. So this will be 2.05, the next one will be 2.05, the next one will be 2.05. So now, when I select this box and I go find it in the world outliner, let's click somewhere else, click back on the box, there it is. When I pop that one out, see how I can see the box on the inside?
Yes, sir.
And that's how that trick works. So you make two geometries, you make them both hollow, you make one, you make the one, whatever the wall thickness is, if it's 10, then you need to make the other one 200.5, or if it's 1,005 or 10,005, whatever the size of your building is, whatever the size of the box is, half of that. So if your wall thickness is 20, the outside box needs to be 10 units larger on each axis than the other box. And then that way when you make the outside box invisible, you get this effect. Is that cool? Does that make sense? Does that explain it better?
Yes, sir. It's just when I try it, it doesn't really work. I tried to look at the video and then do it also, but it wouldn't work. It just
Okay. Well,
it
dude,
just made two walls hollow.
yeah. So let me do the whole thing again, right? So, and you can follow along with this because we're both here, and we're not going to worry about making it a house or a building. We're just going to make the box thing work, right? So I'm going to grab a
Yes, sir.
box, put it out on the floor. It's a geometry. The only thing I'm going to do to this geometry is make it hollow. Boom. That's it. That's all we've done, right? The wall
Yes, sir.
thickness is 10. That's the same. And then the box is 200 by 200 by 200. Now, I'm going to click on the box, or I'm going to make sure that that box is still selected, and I'm going to do Control W.
W.
That should have made a second box. Now, that second box is also hollow because it's a copy of the first one, right? And the wall thickness and everything is still 10. So we're going to leave that alone. We're not going to change that, but we're going to say half of 10 is 5, and we're going to add 5 to the X, Y, and the Z of the second copy, right? So 205, 205, 205, because 5 is half of the wall thickness, right? So if your wall thickness was 20, you would add 10 to each one. So that way the wall would end up in the halfway mark. Now, with that selected, with that done, we're finished. All we have to do is click on the outside bigger box, which is the only box you should be able to click on in the graph because it's the outside bigger box. And when I in the world outliner hit the little eyeball, that makes the eyeball disappear, or that makes the outside box disappear, and then we get that effect. Were you able to duplicate that?
I tried it on the bigger size, but it didn't work.
Right, and that's why I said make it a small
smaller?
box. Yeah, just grab a geometry, throw it on the floor, then make it hollow, then duplicate it, and make it however many, 2.5 or 205, 205, 205, and then click on the box, go into the world outliner, and then pop out the other window, because I can't guarantee that what you've done with the other box, but I can definitely, we can follow this and we can both do it, because I don't know what you've already done to your house structure. I don't know what's changed in that without you showing me. But this way we can definitely make the same box. You have a working copy of it, and maybe you'll go back and you'll redo the outside of your house. So then that way you can create this effect.
Yes, sir.
So just let me know if you're able to very quickly do it, because I can do it again very quickly. We'll just get rid of both of these boxes, right? I'll grab this box, delete the inside box. One box, put it out, make the box hollow. Box, the wall thickness is 10. I need half of that on the next one. So I'm going to Control W. I have the second box. It's already there. Doesn't look like anything's changed. That box is the one that's selected. I'm going to add that 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. So then the size of that box is 5 units bigger, half of the wall thickness of the other box, right? So now we select that box. That shows where it is in the world outliner, and then from there I pop the world outliner. So in 3 very quick, one box, boom, second box copy, make it 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, because you didn't make any changes, and then pop out the big box, and you should get that.
So both boxes got to be 2.5, sir?
Nope, that's not what I said. You make
Oh,
one.
sorry.
Yeah, you make one box. That box
I
comes
made
in.
one box already.
Yeah, so you drag the box on the floor. That box by default comes in 200, 200 by 200.
Yes, sir.
The only thing we want to do to that first box is make it hollow.
Okay, I made it hollow.
Okay, so now click on that box again. Just click on it on the screen so that it's selected, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now go to your keyboard and do Control W.
Control W.
So you see how it kind of popped a little bit?
Yes, sir.
That's that second box sitting on top of the other box. Now, that box is the one that's selected. Go over to the brush settings and make it 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. Or I'm sorry, 205, 205, 205. for the X, Y, and the Z. So what that'll do is
Second
it'll
box.
the box that's now selected,
Okay.
right? It doesn't matter which one of the two boxes it is, because the one of them will then be 2.5, or 205, 205, 205. So once you have that 205 done, and you see that the box is popped in each one of those dimensions, right? It's slightly bigger. Click on the box again. It'll show it to you in the world outliner, and
Yes,
then just go to the little eyeball and click on the eyeball.
Hold on, sir. What is the wall thickness though? Sorry, I ain't do that one.
Well, no, the wall thickness we didn't change.
Okay, so
In this example, what we did was we have a box, the inside box, which is 200 by 200 by 200, and then you have a box on the outside, which is 205 by 205 by 205. By default, the outside wall of the inside box will be inside the wall of the outside box, if that's not a tongue twister or a mind F right there. But basically, when you make the outside box disappear, it takes the outside wall with it of the inside box, and that's what creates that effect for us. So because the outside wall the wall thickness is 10, we're using 5, which is the half.
Yes, sir.
Did it work? Were you able to pop it through?
Not really, sir. It's like some of it is out, but most of it is still there.
Well, that's the way that effect is supposed to work. It's not going to pop everything. Like if you look at it, see how mine is? As I rotate around, the wall that I'm rotating around to is the one that disappears, but I should be able to see the inside walls of the other one.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if that's happening, that's exactly what you want. That's the effect that we're going for. Because when you're working on a house, then you can see where everything is inside the house without having to do much. And then if you want to, you can pop yourself inside the house, see what it looks like there, and then pop yourself back outside. And it's sort of like you have a transparent wall and you can see where everything is. Otherwise, you always have to be inside the structure to see where it is. And sometimes it's easier. It's like I call it like a dollhouse effect. You know what I mean? Like you're sitting in front of a dollhouse and you sort of get to see all the rooms because one of the walls are missing. Yep, but that's it. It's just a slightly bigger box inside of a slightly smaller box where they're both hollow.
Can I just show you one more time on screen share, sir?
Sure. You must have been in the military. You're saying sir way too many times.
No, sir. No, I've never been in the military. I just naturally talk like that.
Gotcha. For me, it's the years of jewelry store training. Everybody's a yes sir or no ma'am. Okay. So you should be able to screen share now.
Sir?
Yep.
Because I had a question with the camera, like.
Okay, let me finish.
wait.
Let me finish with this question, and then I'll get with yours.
You see my screen, sir?
I do. Rotate around the box. Let me see it.
Okay, sir.
Okay, do me a favor. Find an empty part somewhere on the screen that doesn't have the box that you're working with there. Just find an empty spot.
Okay.
Yeah, like right there. Okay, go up. Go like right there. Don't move it too much.
Go up?
No. You're fine. Right there. Just let's see the ground. There you go. Go over to your geometry and grab a box.
Yes, sir.
Put it on the floor. Okay. Go over to the brush settings of this box in its detail panel. Okay.
Brush settings.
Okay. Scroll down just a bit further, just a tiny bit, and you'll see the word hollow. Click on the word hollow. Now, you see how when you did that, it made a wall thickness of 10.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, go back and click on your box. On the screen. Yep, click on it. So the box is selected. Go to your keyboard now and hit Control W. Okay. Do you see how it popped a little, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, we're not going to change that box or move it. The only thing we're going to do to it is it's the one that's selected. It's the one whose details panel is on the screen right now. You can see brush settings. I'm seeing it there on the bottom right-hand corner. Go to the X and type in 205. Go to the Y and type in 205 and do the same thing for the Z. Okay, now click on the box on the screen. Don't change the wall thickness, just click on the box on the screen. It's selected, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now go to your world outliner. You see the one that's highlighted. Click on the eyeball. Okay, there it is. Go zoom around your box.
Okay. So it's supposed to look like this, sir?
No, it's not supposed to look like that. Zoom around it a little bit. Slow down your camera.
Okay.
Camera setting is going to be inside the box. Yep. Should be there. And then you're at a 4. Let's make it a 3. Get a little bit closer to your box. Let me look at the edges. Okay, look down. Stop. Alright, so this is happening because your boxes are not aligned. So part of the image is working the right way, part of the image is not working the right way. Click on the outside box. I believe that is the one that is selected. Just go ahead and click on it. Okay, so go to the brush settings. Go to the transform settings for this box. It should be at the top, right? Bring that out so that we can see it. Like, go to the edge of the box. No. Stop. Go left, slowly, left, slowly, left, slowly, stop. Click and drag to the left so we can actually see the settings. So this is where that box is, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, now, so why don't we go right now to your world outliner. You see the one that's highlighted?
Up here, sir?
Yeah, the one that's highlighted, the one that's in color. The one that's got like that beige color. Click on it, right click.
Right click.
And rename this. So there should be an option there that says rename. Maybe under edit. There it is. F2 is the shortcut.
F2.
Yeah, you see the option down there that says rename with the number F2 to the right of it? Click on that.
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and call this box 1 or test 1. Test box 1, whatever. Just that way we know it's not the other one. And let's go ahead and call this one, yeah, so that's box 1, right? Okay, so let's leave that on. Now, what I want you to do is in the picture next to you, stop, go to the zoom in a little bit so then that way we're inside the box. Now, click on the floor. Okay, so go and find that in the world outliner. It's going to be the one that's highlighted. It can only be the one that's highlighted, so you need to go up to go find it, where it should be highlighted. Scroll down. Click on the box again in the inside, on the picture. There it is. That's your box. Let's call this one inside box. So F2 on your keyboard, or right click and go to edit.
2.
You've clicked on something else. Go back up. You go back and click on the object inside the game. So then that, because right now you're on something called Landscape Gizmo, and you don't
I
want to
had
rename that.
F2, sir.
Okay. Do me a favor. Just go back and click on the box on the left hand side of the screen. Click on on the floor, and just click on it again until it pops in. Okay, so I'm not seeing it. So what's happening right now is it looks like your machine is trying to compile shaders. So we might have to wait for that to finish. Why don't you hit cancel there? Where it says, yeah, you see that little box there?
Oh, no, you said cancel.
Yeah, you see the box that says one asset, whatever? Go ahead and hit cancel on that. Okay, hopefully that'll knock out the shader. Nope, shader's still going. Okay. Basically what I need to do, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to label each one of these boxes so then that way we know which box is the inside, which box is the outside, so then that way when you make it, and then essentially the other thing we need to do is we need to put them both on the same, in the exact same space, because the only way this trick works is if they're both lined up. If they're misaligned, then you're going to get some weirdness, which is what you're seeing. The other thing, you may also have other boxes there. There might be some other thing that's messing with us. But okay, let's try clicking on why don't you go back to the image that's on your screen of the boxes, move away from the box. Let's click on the floor outside the box just so that we can refresh your clicker.
You said click outside the box, sir?
Yes, click somewhere that's not the box.
Okay.
That is your screen. That's your game. Okay, so we've selected the floor as something else, correct? Now
Yes,
go
sir.
back into the box and try to select the floor, and let's see if we can figure out where this thing is on the world outliner. Because it's only going to be the one that's highlighted. That's the only one it'll ever be. Try maybe clicking on one of the walls on the inside box, see if you can find which box we're dealing with.
Perfect.
Sorry, I've lost your screen. Hold on just a second. There. Okay. Now I'm back. I can see your screen again. Okay, for whatever reason we're not able to see the box that you're selecting, why don't you move to the outside of this box? Let's see if we can select maybe one of the outside parts of this box. Okay, that's a wall. That's not the box that we're working on.
Okay.
Okay. Nope. So click one of the other surfaces. Okay, why don't we do this? You've just selected that. Hit delete real quick on your keyboard. That'll delete this
Okay.
box.
It's not letting me delete, sir.
So that means you have something somewhere that's holding you up. You may have a okay, let's do this. Go to another part of the screen. Oh, you know what it is? You're not in a select mode. Right now,
Oh,
you
not-
see that green stuff that's in the background?
Yes, sir.
You're in your landscape mode. So you
Oh,
need to get out of
select mode,
landscape.
sir?
Yeah, that's what's stopping you from being able to do anything. So go back up there to modes. See the thing that looks like a mountain? It says modes underneath it. Looks like a mountain just above where you are right now.
Right here.
Click on the little arrow, make it go to select, which is your top option. Okay,
Okay.
so now we should be able to select things again. Go back to your box, double click, that's that box, okay? Label, don't F2 because whatever you F2'd threw you into a landscape mode. Just
Okay.
right click on the box,
On the
Right.
box? Okay.
on the word that says, I mean that one of them says box 1, right? What we're
Yes,
looking
sir.
for is the other box. So don't change the name of this box because unless we try clicking on the one on the inside. Click the floor on the one on the inside. Click one of the other. You need to keep going around and clicking on boxes until we find the other box. Keep clicking on surfaces until we find something labeled not box 1. Okay, do me a favor. Just hit delete
Okay.
on your keyboard. Let's start with 2 new boxes. So you have one that's invisible. Why don't you make that one visible again? You see there's one called box 9 and there's another one called box something else. Why don't you make those both visible? Click on that. Hit delete. Okay, now we don't have anything else in that space, I hope. Go over to geometry, grab a box, put it on the floor. Select, go down to brush settings on that box. In the details panel, hollow, stop, go back up in the details panel.
Details, man.
You're right there, just go to that little thing on that little square on the right hand side so that you can scroll back up so that you can see the transform information for the box that you've selected.
Oh, scroll up. Okay.
Yeah. Now, if you click in the area between the word location and that red X, click in the space between the word location and the X, right click, copy. This is copying both the X, the Y, and the Z. Now the other good thing is that we've got some pretty solid numbers on there. -1220, -220, and then 270 for your Z-axis, right? Now, Control W. Okay, so we're dealing with box 10 and box 11. Do you see how box 11 has now been shifted over 10 units in each direction? See how it's -1210, -210, and 720?
Yes, sir.
So make the x-axis -1200 and make the y-axis -200. Don't move them, just type them in.
Okay.
Negative
Negative.
-1200 then go to the y and make it -200. And I think we're actually a little bit off because that first number is not in the right place. Go up to your world outliner and click on box 10. So those are the numbers we need.
Okay.
-1220 and -220. So now go to box 11 and make it the same. So we need to add 20. So -1220. And then the other one would be -220. Voila, they are both in the exact same place. Now,
Okay.
because we've got box 11 highlighted, let's go to the X, Y, and Z axis for the brush settings, and let's make that 205, 205, 205, 205 for each one. Nice. Okay. Hit enter. Done. Now, in your world outliner, go to box 11, hit the eyeball in front of it. There you go.
Thank you so much, sir.
Not a problem. Not that bad. It's a little difficult. It's much easier if I was in the classroom. I could just point to things. It's a little bit more hard to put this. You're there. Zoom this way. But yeah, now you have a box that does. You have an example of it. So now when you go and you set up your house, figure out the dimensions that you want your house to be. Right, the first floor or whatever, and then make the other box whatever half of the hollowness of your thing is, right? So if you end up making a structure, let's say that's 1000 by 500 by 300, then it's going to be 1005 by the 505 by 305. and then it's just a little bit bigger than the other box. So when you go into your world outliner and you pop out the eyeball, you only see the inside wall, and you can move around it. It's a very cool effect.
Yes, sir.
All right, very cool. Somebody asked a question about a camera earlier, and I cut them off and I said I needed to finish with the student first. Is that Mr. Duran?
Okay.
There you go. Okay, you remember your question?
Oh yeah, I think I wanted to say remember what I said about an ability or power up to make you go through walls? Or
Okay.
the same, I want to do it with the camera.
Okay, so the stuff that you're talking about right now is a little bit more advanced than what I want to get into. I think the lesson that you want is going to take me at least an hour to explain how to do. So I don't think this would be the appropriate time to do that. I think what you want to do is you want to hold this, keep it as a key feature, discuss it with your group, see if that's something that you guys want to tackle or what you might do for your Lab 12. So you have your individual Lab 12, which is a bonus lab, which you are free to go out and go find a topic and try to see if you can duplicate it. Now, what I would do is what you say you want to be able to go through walls. Is there a reason why your character would be able to go through walls? Can you explain the idea a little bit more other than just saying you want to go through walls?
No, but not thinking about the camera, like an ability that allows a normal first-person game to be in third person.
Okay, so you want to be able to switch between a first person and a third person? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you're saying how complicated is that? It's like
It's very complicated.
Oh.
Because what you have to do is you actually have to set up two characters. You have to, because think about it. In first person view right now, and this is the reason why this is difficult. If you're in first person, you don't have a head. Your head is a camera, right? Because you're showing that camera is showing what the viewer is going to see, right? Now, if you're a first person shooter, you normally don't have a body. You may or may not have a body. And the reason why is that if your camera has to look down, your camera then goes into your body, which doesn't look very realistic. So when you push play in, like, let's say a game like the one that we're playing right now, let me push play. You'll see that when I look down, there's no feet, there's no body. So in a situation like this, when I look at my character, look at what he actually looks like. It's just hands and arms. So if you're going to switch between a first-person shooter and a third-person shooter, the camera is actually off axis of the person. It's usually behind them at an angle up in the air. So then that way you're looking down and at the back of the person, so that you can see the person, you can see the whole body. You can see the feet, the hands, the arms. So when you're playing the game, you know where your character is in relationship to space. So that means the camera can't be here. The camera can't be next to the arms. It has to give you the perspective of somebody else, like a drone, behind your player, right? So to do that, you need to have a second camera, and then you also need to have a second mesh. And then then you have to give a toggle button. So you have to create a button that allows you to toggle back and forth between first person view and second person view. And all of the animations and everything else that's associated with that also needs to be duplicated. For example, let's say that your character shoots a gun, right? Well, in first person mesh, the area where your gun is and where it's going to be shooting is at, let's say, this location. But in third person view, your animation's a little bit different. Your mesh is in a slightly different place, and so you're not using the exact same gun. You're using a different mesh. So in that case, anything that is tied in with shooting the ammunition out of that gun now needs to be duplicated in your code for the new position of where that new mesh is going to be. So now you need to have a spawning point for the ammunition for the first mesh in first person, and you need to have a spawning point for the second mesh in third person, not only also having a third camera. So, not super easy, and we're not there yet.
Okay.
But I actually do have a video tutorial that walks you through this very situation. So I do, if there's something that is interesting and you want to go between first person and third person, that's not the same thing as getting your camera to go through a wall. Because that camera would also be, depending on how you're moving your character around, like let's say you're outside, it works really well. If you take a third person character into a room, depending on how that camera interacts with the wall, because remember the camera is still an object inside the game, so it can only see what it sees. So let's say it's permanently, and that's the other thing, is in a situation where you take a third person character into a room, that camera has to be able to swing around without catching the outside. Like let's say that the third person camera is 30 units away from the head of the unit of the character, and then you have a wall which is 20 units halfway between your character and the camera. Well, the camera is only going to show you the outside wall. Do you see what I'm saying? Because the camera is outside of the building where your character is in. So you have to be careful when you're doing situations with third-person camera, because you may run into a situation like that. Now, there is also a follow your character thing, which automatically changes the distance of that camera to try to put it between it and an obstacle that it might be running into. But then the camera also needs to have collision settings, which are then doing a query onto whether it's running into something, but not necessarily interacting with it. Do you see what I'm saying? So it becomes a little bit more complex to change from first person to third person.
Yeah, also with in third person, I wanted to make the distance between the characters and the camera toggleable.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
again, a little bit beyond. Have you ever done anything with programming before? Because it seems like.
JavaScript.
Okay.
It's been a long while. Sorry, I forgot.
Okay.
Do it.
So the only thing I want to say is do this. In the scope of this game that you're making with your class, with your group, right? KISS is the rule of the day. Keep it simple, stupid. Right? So try. Yeah, no, and that's fine. I'm perfectly okay with answering questions. Very at the level of the stuff that you're doing right now, a bit more complicated because of all the different things that we would have to add to this and the mechanics. I think the better thing is to, when we finish with the labs, you'll have a very good idea of what you can do. And then with Lab 12 within your group, you'll explore each maybe a key feature. And that's why I put the bonus lab there as part of the labs, because what it does is it gives you the ability to sort of flex your muscles and see if you can get a key feature working. If you can, then you can share that key feature with your group, and they can put it into their levels as being part of your game. But remember that there's only a certain amount of time that you have between now and the end of the semester, and you have to be able to have a working version of whatever that key feature is before the end, if you're going to integrate it into the game. Because if it's not working before code freeze, then you're not going to be able to incorporate it.
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking, just so I can scratch it from the beginning before I even start.
Yeah, it's doable. I can tell you the first time that I tried looking for it, there wasn't a very good video on it. I found a lot of small videos that I had to piece together to finally get what I needed. I'll look to see if I have that project that has that feature in it that I can show you, and then I'll show you what the code looks for that, and you'll go like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because here's the other thing: when you switch between modes, you have to make the other mode completely invisible, and you also have to turn off the ammunition for that mode, because they're going to be shooting the gun with the same button. It's always going to be the left-click mouse. But now you have two guns with two different meshes, and you have to deactivate the gun from one when you go into. If you go into third person, you have to deactivate the gun in first person. If you go into first person, you have to deactivate the gun for third person. So every little thing becomes you have to now do it for both. You know?
Yeah. Because my plan was to basically make a third person avatar, and then try to basically mess with trying to the camera when it switches between modes.
Okay.
That was my plan, but that's stretch out because too complicated.
Now here's what I would say is if this is something that you want to make a key feature in your game, fine. You can definitely do it. Just realize that remember what when we saw when he made a comment in that 30 things that I hate about your project thing, or that I hate about your pitch video that we watched with the guy from GDC. He said, don't make normal features key features. Now, I will excuse that for this, because for us everything is new. You know what I mean? So maybe somebody does a key feature like walking up and down a ladder, like getting their character to go vertical while they're at a ladder, and then not be able to go vertical when they're not at the ladder. That's actually not that difficult to do, but if you've never done it before, it definitely qualifies as long enough for let's say doing and actually I have that is actually, I think, in lab 9 is how to do a ladder. But let's say I had a student once that wanted to they were making a horror game, right? And in the horror game, they wanted an enemy character that when you looked at it would stop moving, right? Like it would be like always creeping, trying to get closer to you. And then when you looked around, it would actually get closer to you, like it would move towards you when you weren't looking at it. And then when you looked at it, it would stop. Like it would be like deer in the headlights. It would like, and it would stop moving. And then when you looked away and you turned back, it would be like half the distance. And then the next time it would be like right on your leg. You know what I mean? And so it was spooky. Something like that was a good lab. You know what I mean? Something that took the elements of what I'm going to show you with your enemy characters, navigation settings, and the stuff that we looked at, and we're able to turn that into because a lot of this is not how can I make the most difficult thing or the most complex thing that I can think of. A lot of this is how can I take the stuff that I already know how to do and freak it. You know what I mean? Make it really, really interesting. So that was one of the things we did. We took collision settings. I think we used a chair, so it was actually kind of funny. So it looked like a wheelchair, right? And the wheelchair would get closer to you when you weren't looking at it. But that's where I would go with stuff that I don't know how to do yet. There is, like I said, I do have a video on how to go between third person and first person. It's not pretty, and actually, this is what I end up doing so there is you will actually, to make this work, to get the mesh right, because here's the other thing too, is you then need to have the meshes between first person and third person, right? So like the mannequin that we see there, you see sort of like the arm with the joint and everything, right? And the fingers sort of like look like a crash test dummy that they would use in cars and things like that to experience what a person might feel like, right? They do have a mannequin that is a full-blown version of this guy that's available in third person in the third person BP. So you do have both halves of this one without having to do the work for creating the two different meshes. But if you're going to do, let's say, if you're going to use one of the Paragon characters, which are available through Epic Games, through the Unreal Engine Epic Games, you would then they don't have a first-person version of that character. You would have to go into something like Blender and change the actual static mesh so that you would have a second static mesh that didn't have the head on it. So then that way you could put the camera there. So then that way that's the mesh that you would use when you're in first person, and then the other mesh that you got free from Epic Games would be the mesh that you would use in third person.
So yeah, so that's too complicated currently.
Well, at this moment, when we finish with the labs and you get to see a slightly bigger picture, it might make more sense to do.
Yeah, because I was planning to make the switch between third person and first person a flamboyance ability in a personal project.
So what else would also happen when you switch between first person and third person?
Oh no, it's because I was planning to make it an ability, like learn how to do it in case I want to use it in a personal project or class projects, just in case.
Right, and here's the great thing about what we're doing is you have access to YouTube and you also have access to the software, so you I self-learn. I actually, that's what I'm sort of training you guys how to do with the videos that I'm giving you, because those videos would have been YouTube videos that you would have found somewhere that somebody else would have created, and now you're using that to teach yourself how to do a new skill. So, you know, I would never say, oh no, it's too difficult, you can't do it. I just say that maybe right now at the level that you're at, you may not be able to do it unless you've had formal training in some other game engine and you understand a lot more of the way the mechanics work. But I can tell you the first time that I tried to do this, it took me 2 months to put everything together to create a situation that was satisfactory to me. That try, fail, project, throw away, start again. When you see that picture of the person working on a poem, right, and they have like a trash can next to them with like a bunch of like wadded up pieces of paper, that's exactly what my life was like for like 2 months, except my wadded up pieces of paper were projects that I had thrown away, or that I'd started a new project and because something that I didn't work right and I couldn't go back and fix it, so I had to just start over again. And a lot of that is really what being a good programmer is finding a situation, saying I would like to see if I can do this, and then figuring out all the steps that you need to be able to get you to that point. I just don't know if right now, because you've never done anything else before with Unreal Engine, right?
Yeah.
So I would just try to get the labs done at this point and follow along with the labs and make sure that all those topics and things make sense, because that you will definitely use when you're trying to do what you want to do, which is go between first person and third person. It feels like there would be an easy thing for this, but there's a lot of programming that goes into it because you're dealing literally with two different meshes and you're switching your character from one mesh to another mesh.
Oh yeah. Okay, and then this is this is my last question about
Sure.
another ability, like see through walls, like X-ray vision.
Sure. That is actually probably a little bit easier because every object inside the game has a visibility mask. So at that point, it wouldn't be like Superman kind of X-ray vision where, you look through the whole. Well, I don't know. I mean, it could be. It just depends on how you set it up. The easiest way to do it would be that there would be a button that when you click it, anything that's in the game that has the same label would all of a sudden become invisible. Do you see what I'm saying? Like the visibility, that object would still be there physically, like the wall would still be there. You wouldn't be able to walk through it, but your character would be able to see through the wall because the wall would literally not be there. You could turn an object's visibility on or off. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So that would actually be like the outside wall in the example that I did earlier with the other gentleman, with the other student, where we made the outside wall disappear. You could code that outside box that when you hit, let's say, the V button on your keyboard, V for visibility, that box would turn off.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? Not be visible, and then you, just like us, would be able to see inside the building.
Yeah. So the X-ray is possible. Is
Yeah, it would.
doable in the project.
It's doable. It wouldn't be everything in the game. It would be certain objects, and it wouldn't be like you're X-raying through them. It would be like that object is invisible, and to you,
Because my plan is when you use the X-ray ability, you can see the meshes, but not the texture.
no,
Okay.
because you would not be able to see a mesh unless there is a material on the outside of it. That's what I'm saying, is you wouldn't be able to do that. And that's why I say the easiest thing would be to make the entire mesh. And that's what I'm saying, is there is already a visibility. For example, like if I go and I click on that box back there and then go to its details panel, let's see. And it depends on what it is, because right now that's still a geometry. Let me see if I can
Okay.
find,
So
let's say,
yeah,
a static
so
mesh.
it's doable, but yeah, I had to talk about that. Talk about with other members, they can do this one.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, there is a can user see option that is available, which would then make it not visible to you as the player. You could control who actor hidden in the game. That's another thing. Let's see. Select
Yeah, I have
image.
to search about it, like see more about this because yeah.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah,
But yeah,
because
as go ahead.
it's technically doable, but at the same time, not.
Well, this is actually what we're going to be doing later. As you guys break up into your groups and I start asking you what the key features are in the group, or you present information to me, I'll be like, that's doable, that's not doable. This is easy because X, that's more difficult because you got to do all this to make that work, right? So a lot of what we just went through, we will be doing as a class when you guys introduce different ideas that you want to be able to do. Now, the other thing too would be to go into Epic Games and type in first person to third person and see if there is a pack that doesn't already come with all the stuff you need set up. Maybe somebody's already done this, and they have and for a little bit of a little bit of cheddar, a little bit of cheese, a little bit of money, they'll be happy to make it available to you, and you don't have to sit there and figure it out.
Yeah, I also could see videos about it, like in this already a pack or what you call it.
So I would sit there and I would do that. I would look and see if there aren't any packs that already do what you want, because if somebody else has done the programming, it's sort of like you've hired a programmer to do it and you're paying them for the ability to be able to do it, right? Now, again, like I said, I don't want you to spend any unnecessary money. If this is something that you want to do because you're learning on it, then fine. I can't stop you from spending money, but I can definitely recommend not spending any money just because of the class, right? So you find a cool pack online, you like it, it's $5, buy it. And then you can use that in your project. I won't say that you can't, but don't try to pull that off as a special feature that you worked on, because I'll go look. If it looks too good and it seems too complicated and there's stuff in there that seems way outside what we talked about in class, I'll be like, yeah, that doesn't seem like a special feature that you worked on. It seems more like a pack that you downloaded.
I said, like I know pay packs like in these projects. Like, I'm not gonna
No, I don't mind. I mean, it, maybe later when you're working on your own project, you hire a programmer that can figure it out for you. But if you're not a programmer and you're trying to put a game together and there's a feature that you like and it's $2 online, buy it, use it, but let me know, hey, this comes from this pack. This is a special feature that I wanted to use in my game, but it's not what I'm going to try to use for Lab 12, because Lab 12 you have to do.
Yeah.
But you can find a special feature pack, and maybe there's a melee thing that seems really interesting and you want to use that, fine, but not for Lab 12.
Yeah, so the X-ray is technically doable. What about telekinesis?
That's easier. That's way easier, because there you're dealing with mass and a bunch of stuff that we've already talked about, and that you should also be able to find packs that'll do telekinesis. for sure.
Okay, then thank you. Yeah, yeah. I think my group is going to have a meeting at 4 right now. So
You got it.
4.
Okay,
So,
bud.
yeah.
We'll see you on Wednesday, huh?
Okay. Thank
Best
you.
of luck. You got it. Take care.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. I do need to start getting ready for work. I've gone way over the 3:30 limit. So I'll see everybody on Wednesday. Y'all have a wonderful day.